Welcome to Italy for the second round of the Blancpain GT World Challenge Europe on the Adriatic coast at the MISANO World Circuit. Some would want to be on the beach, we want to be watching the racing action at the track. It was a clean start for the second race at Brands Hatch. Nico Bastian led the way. It was very tight in behind. In the midfield, four abreast, but it was down at the tail of the field where Marcus Winkelhock was given a squeeze. And as the cars came back across the track, you can see damage there. Tom Gamble limping around. All action opening lap. But the really big moment came up at Hawthorns. David Pirelli diving up the inside of Fred Vervish, spinning the Audi around, and unfortunately Vervish went back across to the other side of the circuit, taking 3 or 4 other runners out with him at the edge of the circuit. Front though, always clean, looking very good for Nico Bastian as they ran towards the pit stops. Already starting to hit trouble though was the 88 Acura ASP Mercedes, and that wasn't to be the end of its woes. Very tight in the pit lane, jockeying for position out front. Mauro Angel had done a brilliant opening stint, and Lucas Stoltz was totally in control for Black Falcon, pacing it clear, and really had no rivals in the second half of the race, and all the battling was in behind. Rovegno had this moment in the R Motorsport Aston Martin, and then distraught Vincent Abril. The problem for 88 became terminal, and then the sister car, Timo Bogoslawski, now at the wheel, clearly in trouble of its own. Looking for trouble, perhaps Ricky Collard fighting with Kelvin van der Linde. And the Aston Martin kept on prevailing, but van der Linde was not to be denied. Up the inside he went in his Audi. Great racing. And for Bogoslawski, I'm afraid that proved terminal. The spoke led to stop, but it was victory for Lucas Stoltz, so no wonder Mauro Engel's so delighted to greet him. A second place and a first place. What fantastic haul at Brands Hatch. So the largest check of all to Mauro Engel and Lucas Stoltz, presented by series founder Stefan Rattel. New for 2019, the Blancpain GT World Challenge, with the championship in the States, in Europe and in Asia. The manufacturers nominate 4 drivers for each of those series. Let's take a look at Ferrari's runners for the American series. And in Europe, Ferrari's representatives, here they are. And in Asia, here are the quartet. And let's take a look at the dozen drivers all looking for glory around the globe, the prancing horse. And likewise, Mercedes nominated 4 drivers for each of the series. Here are the runners in the American series. In Blancpain GT World Challenge Europe, here are the magical quartet. And the 4 drivers racing for Mercedes in the Asian series. And at this early stage in the championship, let's take a look at the points tallies. And it's Mercedes going very well on 6,109 points, almost 2,000 points more than Ferrari. But things can change, and they may well do that here at MISANO. Coming into the 2019 series, a look down the entry list, and the Black Falcon Mercedes team stood out as a likely front-running combination. Mauro Engel and Lucas Stoltz went really well at Brands Hatch, starting from pole position, and they're sure to be strong on whichever circuit they go racing.
Overall, we are 6.5 points behind, so we definitely try to make up some points here. In the sprint challenge or in the world challenge, we are still leading by 11 points, which we're really happy about it. But yeah, we're facing a really hot and really difficult weekend because we came straight from the Nürburgring. It was really exhausting for the team, so really credits to them that they really push and stay focused. It's not an easy weekend for us, but yeah, we're definitely here to win.
Racing for glory on home ground is Andrea Fontana, Audi Sport Italia, entering an R8 LMS. For Andrea to share with the ultra-experienced Audi racer Pierre Caffer.
Yeah, I'm very happy to join Blancpain GT series. It's my first time here, so it will be really nice to see how we will be inside the championship. The level here is really high. I know MISANO really good. I raced a few times here. It's the first time with Audi, so we need a few laps to get the feeling, and then let's see what happens.
It's not only the first drivers to the finish who take honours in any of the Blancpain GT World Challenge rounds, because there's Pro-Am and Am classes as well, and going very well this year in Pro-Am is Louis Michiel, sharing with the ultra-experienced Andrea Bertolini. The opening rounds at Brands Hatch didn't turn out to be a dream result, but hopefully all will be right here at MISANO.
For me, it's a very honor to drive a Ferrari. Of course, it's already a couple of years that I'm doing this kind of races. Last weekend, Brands Hatch, we had the pole, so unfortunately I made a small mistake, but we are here now in MISANO to take revenge.
Another Italian driver looking to shine on home soil is second-generation racer Mattia Drudi, sharing with Milan Donch, another young talent. They're competing in the Silver Cup class for Attempto Racing. and certainly looking for a really strong run around the tight twists of Misano.
For sure the tire degradation will be the key for this weekend. You know, racing when outside is 40 degrees means that the asphalt temperature will be around 55, 56, so it's really tough for both the drivers and the cars. It's a really nice feeling to race here in Misano. It's my home track and living just 500 meters away from the track. And having all the fans and all my families around the area for sure will help me even more.
Certainly a championship favourite coming into 2019. Raffaele Marciello had high hopes, but Brands Hatch was a 4th place in a retirement, so plenty to fight for. And for this weekend, maybe a change of luck as the cars changed from blue to red.
Yeah, in endurance I did only Monza. I drove 2 hours. In Silverstone I didn't jump in the car. For Ricciardo I didn't jump in the car, so yeah, didn't drive so much this year with all the problem we had, but I mean, in sprint, in the GT World Challenge we did only 1 round. I mean, it's still quite everything open. We try to start from this race to start to recover a bit of points, and I mean, for the overall and endurance Spa is the main where you get a lot of points, and for sprint it's only 1 round, so it's still pretty open everything.
There's a new challenger on the block for this year, Thomas Neubauer, very fast young racer for ACA ASP. He's sharing with Nico Bastian, and they took victory at Brands Hatch. Can they do it here as well?
Switching from single-seater to GT cars is a big step, but having Nico with me is a big advantage. Like he can teach me all his experience and stuff. Obviously this weekend the main goal is still the Silver Cup, but after the last weekend in Brands Hatch we hope for another overall podium, so that's the main goal.
FFF Racing Team is running a trio of Lamborghinis this year, and one of the stars is Marco Mappelli. He's sharing with Andrea Caldarelli, sure to go well here on home ground in Italy.
Racing in Italy is always very emotional. It's a home race for the team because most of the guy lives near Sant'Agata in Bologna, and that's obviously will make us proud if we get a good result. We have to think at 360 degrees, so we have to be careful and attack at the same time, which is not easy sometimes because obviously you want to win every races, but for sure we have to look for the championship, looking for a big picture and concentrate on everything we do.
A wonderful, hot, sunny evening at Misano. Fortunately cooler than it was earlier in the day. We're all set for the first of our 2 races here at Misano, but a packed grid of cars, 28 runners here this weekend, filling this tight and twisty track. And it's Charles Viet's 18 years old on pole for his family team, for Team WRT, an astonishingly good job, and an Aston Martin alongside. We're going to glide down the grid. Andrea Caldarelli will start 3rd in his Lamborghini, Christian Engelhardt in the rival Grasser Racing Lamborghini on the other side of the 2nd row of the grid. Looking for a change of luck, the red has replaced the blue as the livery for the number 88 ACA ASP Mercedes, and Vincent Abril will start from 5th, and Lucas Stoltz, sharing, he's the championship leader for Black Falcon, will start alongside for Black Falcon. Nico Bastian won that opening race at Brands Hatch with Thomas Neubauer, and alongside Simon Gachet, the Sancelot Racing Audi is getting better and better through this weekend. There's the second one, Stephen Palette. Timo Bogoslawski, another good runner, very strong runner for ACA ASP. Rick Breukers for Audi, and alongside sister car. We're only halfway down the grid, and we've had some fantastic names, John, and really today it was so quick firing qualifying.
Yes, it was a very competitive qualifying on a tight racetrack, 16 turns, but nevertheless it's a circuit that demands a great deal of focus and concentration, especially in these very hot conditions. Some of the parts of the track have not been offering up the level of grip that drivers had maybe anticipated. Probably we may see a little of that once this race gets underway. Inevitably on the opening lap it'll be a traffic jam into turns 1, 2 and 3, but hopefully, keep saying it, please guys, think about the race distance. It's not 1 lap, it's 1 hour.
Well, perfect timing, just got down to the last car on the grid, or penultimate car. New this weekend, Get Speed Performance Mercedes. Welcome to the Blancpain GT World Challenge. And another factor that just cannot be ignored this weekend, it's been very hot. Track temperature is down a huge amount. It was down 16 degrees. We saw nearly 49 degrees track temperature today. The air temperature, thankfully, as we are in the evening now, it's coming up to 7:45, The sun is dropping lower, it's getting cooler, but keeping tyre life has been absolutely the hardest thing this weekend. Formation lap nearly at a conclusion. The sun low in the drivers' faces as they come up towards the final corner, turn 16. Of course, they have to turn to the left, look to the lights on the starting gantry. There should be two sets of red lights. There they are in the middle. When we have the bulk of the field round the final corner, they will be turned to green. It looks a tiny start, 2 by 2, exactly as we wanted. And poleman Charles Weerts has assumed the lead. Ricky Collard trying to tuck in behind in the Aston Martin, but around the outside, Andrea Caldarelli, he wanted a good start. He's got a magnificent start up into second position. Ricky Collard looked so he'd done enough, and Mauro Engel making a big charge in the Black Falcon Mercedes. Good tidy running through the first two
good
corners.
Execution by Caldarelli. He knew that he knows the circuit obviously very well. He knew there's a chance because everybody tends to sort of bunch up in the first part of turn 1. They all get slowed down. So if you've got a clear exit in turn 1, you can take the long way around. Caldarelli executed that overtake with extreme skill.
So well done all, and Sundry 28 now pulling slightly out to protect the inside line into turn 8, so he'll lose a bit of ground there, but hold on to third position is Ricky Collard. The first two have made their break. Charles Weerts, only 18 years old, astonishingly mature drive to take pole, and now he's got to show all his maturity to try and resist Caldarelli.
And just watching Ricky Collard in the SRO Motorsport Aston Martin, almost reverting back to single-seater tactics from the earlier career path that he followed to keep the number 4 Black Falcon Mercedes. Now, of course, he's got Christian Engelhardt in the 63 Lamborghini breathing down the back. But these two, the lead 2 cars, making sort of a mini break, you might say, before they've even come up to the conclusion of the first flying lap. So Charles Weerts in the Audi, and then we've got Andrea Caldarelli in the Lamborghini. Experience plays more to Caldarelli. Again, you see the pressure Caldarelli's building, particularly in this third sector of the lap at MISANO, and it's once you get onto the pit straight, the difference in straight line performance between the Audi and the Lamborghini is almost negated because they have fundamentally the same engine and gear train. But Caldarelli really closing down, putting pressure every part of the racetrack on the young Belgian driver.
We have a spinner coming out of the final corner, a puff of dust past our window. We know it's not the first two because we can still see looking through the windscreen. That's a re-spin
ASP.
As he kept going, it was number 87, that would be Mauro Ricci, so he started down towards the tail of the grid on the penultimate row, and well, he hasn't lost too many positions, lost a lot of time, but Charles Weerts, if he can be unsettled, this is the chance for Andrea Caldarelli, so he's not letting him relax anywhere, every single corner. He is pretty much taking a look. For once, as I say that, of course, he was quite tame down into turn 8, but it's at the third sector of the lap, down to turn 14, where he tries to chivvy him, and you can see Charles Weerts getting very twitchy in the number 2 Audi. Still leading, however, still only 18 years old. Astonishing.
I should say, he's only 18 years old. He's got a much more mature driver behind Andrea Caldarelli, who's familiar with GT3 racing over many seasons, particularly in Lamborghinis. But again, what Weerts is doing is using all the benefits his car has got by being in the lead. So you can slow down just on the apex to really frustrate the car that's chasing you, so you get this kind of seesaw effect. It's a very effective way of controlling your lead.
It really is, but we have to remember that this is the first season for Charles out of Formula 4 junior single-seater racing. He did a Nations Cup in Bahrain at the end of last year, and now we will watch. It'll be a masterclass of attempted overtaking, and it only becomes a real masterclass if Andrea Caldarelli can move through into the lead. Hasn't managed it yet. Just looking down to see who's dominating in the Pro-Am class. It's Neil Stephenhart, who's down in 16th position. The top in Am is down in 21st. So there, oh gosh, as soon as I look at the time on the screen,
he's trying to force the situation. Now he's got just about alongside, but he's on the wrong part of the racetrack. Now he's going to make the undercut, gets alongside, virtually now alongside, to take that position away finally from Charles Weerts. That is what experience gives you. The Weerts can go the long way around if he feels he's got the speed. But if I was in Caldarelli's position, I would just let my Lamborghini drift out, force Weerts to get out of the throttle, otherwise he's going to run off track. That's what experience gives you, and it was very well executed by Caldarelli. Let's look again. Here's how the task got finally done, and that's what you're going to be. You're going to be right fair and square alongside the car you're going to pass, and then you use that advantage and you force the other car, in this case the Audi, wider and wider, forcing Weerts to get out of the throttle, to check up, and that then consolidates the overtake.
But right now, with a gap of 0.4 of a second, just starting to eke his way clear. Half a second added on that lap, nearly an entire second for the race lead.
Now this race is going to have a stop between 25 and 35 minutes. Remember, WRT have been kind of king of the pit stop castle over many, many seasons. I know that this team, this newly formed Audi team, Orange One FFF Racing Team, to give its full title.
Oh,
and somebody's been spun, is that?
Well, it's Mirko Bortolossi, no, Christian Engelhardt. There's obviously been contact.
Is that
because one of the Sansalot Racing Audis, I think, is round. It's the blue one, that's number 25. That's Simon Gachet.
And the exit of turn 3, smoke coming off the right rear now of the Lamborghini, so bodywork rubbing. And I suspect that Christian Engelhardt's going to make a pit stop because he will not be able to continue, otherwise he'll cut that tyre down.
Well, you can see the point of contact. Clearly the car from behind has come up and hit his rear as he turned into turn 3. Round it went. The rest of the field was scattered behind. There is the moment. Turn 3 down to turn 4.
And then he clipped the right rear, and because that involved the other.
And both of the Sansalot cars involved, but the driver who did the assault, car number 25, Simon Gachet, into the pit lane. Don't forget he was running 6th. They made a good start. In fact, Simon started back in 8th position, so progress had been made, but it's all been undone.
Well, it got that little bit of contact into turn 4, set off a chain reaction which took out other cars. So they're now trying to catch up, having lost position. Of course, they're quicker than the cars that they're pursuing. But is that a pass? Did we just catch the pass? The Mercedes get through?
Indeed, the Mercedes is through. Lucas Stoltz was biding his time. I was about to say the 2 words going around in Lucas' mind are basically saving tyres, and he seems to have done it, but he found the chink in Ricky Collard's armoury.
Look at this, almost 3 wide coming into the final turn, and a battle going on further down the field, and it's getting very, very tetchy. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cars, almost all covered by the proverbial handkerchief, and it's the Mercedes of that group of cars that looks to have the pace, but where can he use that pace? Where can he exercise, release the speed that he has got, maybe up into turn 4, if he thinks about it? Is it too short a distance to throw it down the inside?
This is the replay of 4th becoming 3rd for Lucas Stoltz.
Yeah, just simply that Lucas Stoltz had more drive coming onto the back straight.
1.5 seconds becomes 2.3. Spot on, John, but Charles Weert still has an advantage of 4 seconds over Lucas Stoltz. But I reckon Stoltz had the pace of any of the drivers. Someone's gone very wide out of turn 16. Happens about every second lap in front of our commentary position. Pace changes further downfield. Number 10, Rick Broikers, trying to get in the thick of the action. He's running the Silver Cup class for the younger drivers. Timo Bogoslawski in the blue Mercedes in the background. Blue-white Mercedes also wants a bit of the action.
He found himself being out-positioned. He's on the outside as they go into turn 4, and he's going to try and just about keep the Audi directly behind. Almost gets into contact with the 10. 10 runs very wide. That's an easy pass. So he's got to give that one up.
And we've got a spinner.
Down to the bottom end of the circuit.
1 or 2 cars we cannot see. Charles Weert has gone round.
What has he done?
Second place. I just said he had a 4-second advantage over Lucas Stoltz. Luca would have caught him, but there, I'm afraid, racing on his own, and round he's gone.
I mean, the only thing I can think of, maybe he's picked up something on the track. He may have had a deflating tyre, but that has been the bogey corner here all weekend, and particularly in qualifying, we saw innumerable drivers getting very, very wide. And if you get that wide, then you will probably lose the back of the car.
Well,
so there's the race leader. He loses it, really. It's just the back end started, that pendulum effect began, and there was very little he was going to be able to do to stop the car ending up, as you see there, buried into the gravel. And that's the reason why we've now got a full course yellow to enable the corner workers and the snatch vehicle to lift that car out. And that's there's Dad. I mean, he was probably enthralled in his son's progress. Now he'll be not upset or disappointed, but that's motor racing.
Let's take a look at the replay of the start. It was about the tidiest start I have ever seen in a Blancpain GT World Challenge race, running 2x2, just like the doctor ordered, all down to the first corner. We held our breath, John, but from pole position, Charles Weert did what he needed to do. Brilliant start from Cordarelli, went one way, went the other, round the Aston Martin, up into second position. Star move of the race. So let's just run down the order while we've got full course yellow. Andrea Cordarelli leading in his 563 FFF Racing Team Lamborghini from the Black Falcon Mercedes. Number 4, Lucas Stoltz. Ricky Collard, you can see him in the Aston Martin there in 3rd place overall.
So safety car's about to come in. Cordarelli backs them up now. He's going to give it 1 through 15, 16. He's actually up to turn 16, so maybe he could have gone a little bit earlier.
Well, a few drivers kicking up dust in the background. It looks like the job has been done, but we knew Vincent Abril will attack. Up to turn 1, he had a look, not a serious look, but he's just trying to unseat Ricky Collard. But we've seen in the early stages of the race, the Aston Martin racer may not look tough out of the car, but when he gets in, very, very uncompromising. We saw it in Brands, but he's made his own mistake, but somehow just gets back onto the track in front of Vincent Abril. Vincent's on the outside. This could be a chance for Stephen Paulette behind to gain a position in the Audi. Will he manage it? Not quite.
And knocked the inside into the Audi,
Oh.
goes in and early, the first of the pit stoppers, we believe. Now that, I don't know whether it was a late call or an opportunistic call. Get in when the pit lane is empty. Make your pit stop, driver change, get back out. By the time you get back out, there will be others, and there they are. The tail of the field has basically followed through.
Well, and don't forget, Caldarelli came in. It didn't come on our screens very quickly out as we were looking at that battle for third, fourth places. 76 Aston Martin also into the pit lane, but I think that was a really good call, a very late call from Stephen Pallette. He was blocked by the cars in front of him. Let's find out, is it working or is it not? At least half the field in the pit lane now.
And it's a very congested pit lane, so there's the Grasso Racing Lamborghini making its way down.
Well, that's actually Mapelli getting going. His garage is near pit entry. He very nearly collected the back of one of the Aston Martins. I presume that's Arovegno's car. And then talk about busy in the pit lane, 2-3 abreast. Not sure that's... But the Audi has gained a position on the Aston Martin there.
I mean, the way that you release cars, at the end of the pit lane, you've got this dog leg to get into the pit lane exit itself. So it is two cars coming down side by side, one on the inside leaving his pit box, the other who's going to give ground, who's going to concede.
Yeah, well, the 26 Audi, started by Stephen Pallette, Marcus Winkelhock, wise head on old shoulders, or is it the other way around? But he's got ahead of the Aston Martin, so Ricky Collard's handed over the car to Marvin Kirchhofer, started second, was running third, has lost out in the pit stops. What I want to see is how good a lap, or number of laps we're going to get from Lucas Stoltz. He stayed out.
And there's the 88 Mercedes. So Vincent Abril gets out.
Marco Mapelli now at the wheel of the car that led the race. Andrea Caldarelli, of course, we're waiting to see where will Maro Engel be when he comes out, having taken over the Black Falcon Mercedes. That is continuing, still in the hands of Lucas Stoltz.
But there we are, there's the Mercedes coming down the exit, pit lane exit, but what was the leading Lamborghini is probably now already into turn one. So it will still, in effect, when this washes through, as we see the Mercedes, there's the Lamborghini going through. Now we've got the Mercedes, Raffaele Marcello. It's going to be interesting. Two Italian drivers in totally different brands. Who can actually dominate for the remaining 31 or so minutes of this event?
Drive-through penalty, though, for car 25 causing a collision. That was Simon Gachet, Sansalot Racing. We saw him hit, unfortunately, and spin Christian Engelhardt around. And anyhow, he has retired from the race, so he won't be serving that drive-through penalty.
Well, up into these final turns, into turn 16. Well, good pass by Mirko Bortolotti.
Yeah, place changes galore in these laps after pit stop. Still waiting for Nico Bastian to come in and serve his stop. The 89 ASB Mercedes. One win on the board. Oh, wow, almost a car off the circuit there. That's Shea Davis feeling a bit of muscle. Presumably that's the number 11. That's Fred Vervies. Now Thomas Neubauer under huge pressure from Marcus Winkelhock there. Oh dear, running very, very wide. The number 90 Fabian Schiller driven car, and place lost. Marvin Kirchhofer maybe helped him into that situation. Forced him to go wide, and of course carried the momentum through.
Yeah, no, wheels come off. Is that the 26?
That's Marcus Winkelhock's car, but he's caught.
No, that's the car in the background is already. That's the number 2, but Winkelhock has lost a wheel. There you can see.
Yeah, there it went.
So all of a sudden, that battle with Neubauer, it's all over. Another battle's evolving, coming down in turn 1.
Yeah, that's Kelvin van der Linde. He never says no to an overtaking opportunity, so Attempto Racing gained 2 positions without realising about the first one too much, because obviously that was with the demise of Marcus Winkelhock, and really making moves up the order. Nick Foster, the Australian racer in the 55 Attempto Racing car. Very nice, tidy work, and he's got company behind. He's got Oscar Tunjo in there as well. It's Audi Central.
It certainly is, and that was a good move. Just again, you have to read what's going on ahead of you, and maybe you're not going to make the pass. In one corner, you work forward, maybe for 2 or 3 corners down the racetrack. Marcus Winkelhock walks away.
Well, let's take a look at how it happened, why it happened.
Well, the left rear pops off, whether the nut or whether the wheel, maybe the wheel hadn't been fully lodged onto the drive pegs, whether the nut maybe hadn't been fully locked up.
So the message on screen now, safety car in at the end of this lap.
There we are, Raffaele Marcello, right onto the gearbox coming through turn 15. The safety car is going to pull off. There it goes into the pit lane entrance. Now it's down to Mapelli to get on it, and Raffaele Marcello is going to get on it, as is Maro Engel getting on it.
I think Maro Engel was on it more than the first 2. He's closed right on the tail of Marcello. That's why they lead the championship. Nice and tidy in behind it, but the gold Lamborghini going one way, everyone trying to go around the other side. Neubauer's got through. Looks like he's lost a position. The Aston Martin has gained a position. No, he hasn't, sorry. He's still staying in 4th place, but yes, they both dropped Neubauer. I was correct. So
well, remember, there's been under safety car or full course yellow for some time. Tyre temperatures will have dropped away. Track ambient temperature, they're falling away as well. So maybe Marco Mappelli was being a little bit cautious. Certainly Raffaele Marciello is not.
Getting very, very busy. Kelvin van der Linde just riding on board with him, trying to go one way, then the other to get round Fred Vervish.
A lot of wheel movement from Kelvin van der Linde. You can see how hard he's working. I mean, basically, his front tyres, his rear tyres have shown their best, and he's still right scruff of the neck.
Up front, the gap has now 1.01 seconds between Mappelli leading the race and Marciello in second. Has he done enough? And finally, has Kelvin van der Linde done enough to go in front to move up to be the leading Audi in the race? He has, and then running very, very wide. It looks as though it's going to be 2, possibly even 3 places lost by Fred Vervish, because Nick Foster has gone through. Both the Tempo Racing Audis have gone through. And in behind, Matteo Drudi pushing very hard as well. Up the inside of Fred Vervish, rubbing, pushing wide. Someone's just dived into the pits. I can't tell you who it is. I can. It's Thomas Neubauer, the 89 is up around about 6th position. He has tumbled back. He's lost. He was 4th on the restart, but it all went horribly wrong. He's dropped down the order, had another pit stop. 1 hour has come to its conclusion. Now just waiting for this final lap to be finished. The sun still caught at certain parts of the circuit. Give it 10 more minutes. So as the sun sets on this Saturday, it's the first win of the season for Lamborghini in the Blancpain GT World Challenge Europe. It was tight, but the job was done. So relief, the first win at this level for the FFF Racing team, and looking for the silver winner, Fabian Schiller in 5th place overall. The top car in the Pro-Am class, not in this Audi group, but the next car to the finish, it'll be Andrea Bertolini. There he is, the 52 Ferrari. So delight from the Lamborghini crew down there, and for FFF Racing team taking a lot of regular Lamborghini employees and really made it work very, very well indeed. Victory today. Got to try and do it all over again tomorrow when the grid is a totally different reshuffled beast. But for the drivers who did the second leg, they'll be hot, but they'll be happy if their name is Marco Mappelli. And he and Andrea Corderelli joined by John Watson.
Andrea, many congratulations, many would say an overdue victory.
Yeah, absolutely. We were waiting since, 5 weekends. We're almost there, like we were always very close, but to win in our home race, it's fantastic. I think all of us deserve it, absolutely.
Now, to me, you won this race 300 yards after the start, into turn 1, you went round the outside, got position, and then you were really in the right driving seat.
I had like a weird feeling before the start. I said I had to overtake turn 1, and I went. It worked, and after that the car was mega, and I mean, we were a bit afraid after the safety car, but after that, easy job for him.
Marco, it wasn't that easy. You were under pressure.
Yeah, definitely. But most of the job has been done by Andrea and the team. We knew that we were struggling a little bit with very hot in qualifying, but when it's cooling down, our car was getting better. So I just had to do my job.
Sweet. So let's take a look at the results. First victory for the Orange One FFF Racing team. Lamborghini crew of Andrea Corderelli, brilliant start from him, and Marco Mappelli, who brought it home. For Vincent Abril and Raffaele Marciello in their ACA ASP Mercedes, it is a first decent chunk of points. Lucas Stoltz and Maro Engel, as we heard, their 3rd podium finish in the Black Falcon Mercedes in 3 starts. Really strong. Aston Martin will be pleased. The ARB Motorsport team, Ricky Collard and Marvin Kirchhofer up to 4th place. As the trophies are presented to the top 3 crews. And I'm gathering that the results up and down the field may not all be final, still various incidents under investigation. But I think at the front end of the field, we have no concerns. I think we know our winning order in what was a very clean race. Some fantastic driving. It was close and it was almost invariably fair. And I think we've got some young drivers really starting to make their mark on the championship, most notably Charles Beertz, who ran in 2nd place until he just got a little too enthusiastic and spun off. So the sound rises, the volume rises as the winning team, the Lamborghini team, FFF Racing team, take victory here in the first of 2 races at Misano. But now, of course, the champagne, and I'm sure those fancying victory don't mind if their overalls get a little bit hot, wet and smelly. They probably were already. Just don't forget, it's been a very, very hot few days here at Misano. The grid, a very, very busy place, a very hot place ahead of the second of the 2 Blancpain GT World Challenge races here this weekend at the Misano World Circuit on the Adriatic coast of Italy. See the flags over the grid, they are blowing, there is a welcome breeze, but track temperature 37 going towards 38 degrees. It should continue to rise, but the good thing for all the drivers concerned, that is considerably cooler than it was yesterday afternoon. The heat taste, of course, is still here. But let's go down and find out a hot John Watson, and he's found Vincent April. He's down on the grid. The car is the 88 ACO car on Mercedes pole.
Vincent second yesterday, pole position today. Clear run on to turn one. What's not to like?
Yeah, it's a sunny day in Misano and we're starting on pole, so obviously we're very happy with that. The team did a great job since Thursday to give us a great car, so I think now it's about time to repay them with a victory.
General consensus is Mercedes are probably the most gentle of all the brands on their tyres at a really hot racetrack.
Yeah, that's something we worked quite hard on, to be honest, and yesterday was less of an issue because the start was much later and the conditions were much cooler, but obviously today is going to be a huge factor in the race, so let's see who did their homework better.
You guys have done a good job.
Thank you.
Tyre temperatures will continue to be an issue, of course, as Vincent pointed out. The race was in the evening, but the track was really, really hot all afternoon. There is still that welcome breeze, but second place yesterday was the first podium result for Abril and Raffaele Macciarini. Raffaele took the pole position by the smallest of margins, just over 1/10 of a second from number 2 Team WRT Audi. So a great mix of manufacturers at the front row of the grid, but they're desperate for the first win. And let's go down to John Watson all over again. And he's moved across to the outside of the front row to join Dries van Tor and Charles Weerts.
Dries, again, starting in the front row of the grid. What are your expectations?
Well, try to get a podium. I think that's our main goal. Something extra is a bonus for us. It's a good starting position like yesterday. Fortunately, yesterday we couldn't finish the race, but I think that's part of his learning process. I think I had to go through that as well. We all learn from it, and it's the best when we learn from it and come back stronger. So let's try to do that today and see where we can end up.
Excellent. Charles, starting again the front row of the grid. Have you given Dries any advice as to how to handle the first half of the race?
Well, I think he is the guy who gives me advice, but no, he knows perfectly how to do it, so I fully trust him, and yeah, I'm sure it will be okay.
It's a lot hotter than last night too.
Yeah, for sure, but I mean, we got warmer, even warmer on Thursday and on Friday, so it should be fine. It should be fine.
Enjoy it.
Quite right, there's been a lot of hot track running here over the days leading into the weekend, but Charles Weerts, the young man in the team, and for Dries van Tor to be the old man at just 21 is extraordinary. They both come up through Team WRT and putting on a masterclass as the top of the Audi runners. As I said, the front row is Mercedes on pole position, the number 88 ACA ASP Mercedes, and alongside the number 2 Belgian Audi club, Team WRT Audi. Then Santalot Racing, the second of the Audis, number 25. That was in the thick of the battling yesterday. But the car that won was the car that was finished by Marco Mappelli yesterday. Starting 6th today, he's sharing with Andrea Caldarelli, but that all-important first win for FFF Racing Team at this level of competition around the world. And quite interestingly, it's alongside the Grasser Racing Team Lamborghini that will start 5th. But let's go down to the grid, because John has found the drivers for the number 90 Mercedes, Timo Bogoslawski and Fabian Schiller.
Fabian, lead silver car, second row of the grid. That's impressive.
Yeah, again, pretty good qualifying. I mean, Brent Setchry already had very good pace, but we couldn't transfer it into a great race result. Now, yesterday we had a good first race, finishing P5 and P1 in silver class overall, and that's our target for today as well. Main objective for Timo especially is winning silver cup class, and then we see how it ends up in the overall.
Now, you did the exploratory lap coming into the grid. Obviously, it's a lot hotter, but any other differences in the circuit?
No, not really. I mean, we had a very hot test day on Thursday and then hot free practices on Friday. Yesterday night it was a little bit cooler, but I mean, our car's running great in every conditions, and we certainly have the pace for the front, so I mean, looking forward to drive.
Good. Timo, you're going to take over from Fabian. What did you learn from yesterday's race? Because that battle that you were involved in was very, very tight.
So yeah, I had a hard battle with the Audi, and after the pit stop, Fabian did a really good job also. So he overtake the 89 and we take the P1, so we win the race. I hope we did the same work today and win the race. So.
Stay cool, man.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, good. The first time we've heard from Timo Bogoslawski in front of the cameras in the heat. Russian racer, so many cosmopolitan lineups, a Franco-Russian line up for ACA ASP, a team that's very, very much French indeed, led by Jerome Policon, but they're still at the sharp end of the field. They're starting 4th on the grid, as John pointed out, and the leading Silver Club class runners. Of course, that's the class for younger drivers and really looking to make their mark. So people now starting to move away from the grid, either because they're getting too hot or simply because they've been flagged away. And we'll get to see all the cars lined up down there, 14 rows full. And let's hear from yesterday's winner, Andrea Caldarelli. John has just caught up with him.
Andrea, you're looking very relaxed. Have you just come from the beach?
Yeah, look at this. Just coming from the beach from Misano, just waiting for Marco to jump in the car. We are relaxed. We know that the car is really competitive here, so just I'm a little bit worried about turn 1, but I hope that Marco will do the same as me yesterday.
Be a big ask from the 3rd row to go around the outside and get 2nd place, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but Marco is Marco, so we know he can do it.
The car had fantastic pace yesterday. The realistic, what outcome can you expect?
Well, we need to score points for the championship. That's our first target. So we know that this position is always a little bit tricky to start, but I think we're expecting that the target is the podium again.
You get the sand out of your toes, man.
Thank you.
It's a different Andrea Caldarelli today. It's like an enormous weight came off the shoulders. He is effectively running the FFF Racing Team program in Europe. It's a 3-car campaign. In previous years, it's the Grasser Racing Team that has been running the 3 cars. This year they're running just the 1, but it's that tried and tested combination of Christian Engelhardt and Mirko Bortolotti. They'll be starting from 5th with Mirko just helmeting up to get on board. So it is the battle of the Lamborghinis, but again, so many manufacturers up at the sharp end of the grid, exactly showing the value of balance of performance. But let's go down to the grid because John has got one last interview.
Mirko, I know you want to get into the cockpit as quickly as possible. Give us one good word.
Let's go racing.
Let's go racing, he says. Let's go racing.
Well, that is Mirko Bortolotti through and through. He is a racer's racer. I really like that. So well done, John, for catching him. John will come up and join me, but the cars will be very soon going off into their formation lap. And for those not needed on the grid, they'll be heading for the shade, what little shade they can find in the pit lane. All the doors will be kept open to the last possible second to stop those cockpits from overheating. And let's just pick down through the classes. The leading car starting in Pro-Am is in with Jim Pla up in the 5th row, so really good. So let's take a look at the grid from the front end as we ride through. The red for this weekend, it's been blue up to this point. They changed the ACA 88 Mercedes to red, hoping to change its luck. And Raffaele Marcello will be starting from pole position alongside Dries van Toor in that all-Belgian lineup in the number 2 Audi. Go back to row 2 and we've got Christopher Haase starting the Audi for Sansalot Racing. That's been quick this weekend. And Fabian Schiller looking for Silver Cup glory before handing over to Timo Bogoslawski. That's the 2nd of the ACA ASP Mercedes. Then that all Lamborghini 3rd row, Mirko Bortolotti for the Grasser Racing Team. And Orange 1 FFF Racing Team, Marco Mappelli is starting, and hopefully by the midpoint in the race, Andrea Caldarelli would have found his race overalls ready to take over. Saw him just a few moments ago, looking very cool in his shorts. Sansalot Racing 2nd Audi, Marcus Winkelhock will kick off in that one. Alongside him, the 2nd of the FFF Racing Team, Lamborghini's Diego Menchaca, the Mexican racer. Then back to row 5, Aro Venio and Hugo de Sadalier will kick off in the R Motorsport Aston Martin, 1 or 2 of those, and Jim Pla, leading Pro-Am runner, starting in a very impressive 10th place overall. Then Lucas Stoltz, Mauro Engel leading the championship back on row 6. Damage limitation for them. Fred Vervish, always a fighter in his Audi. That's from Phoenix Racing. The 2nd of the Aston Martins, that was 4th yesterday. Ricky Collard did the finishing stint yesterday, and today it's he would do the finishing stint today. Then Matteo Drudi, Italian driver, looking to shine for Attempto Racing. He had some great battling yesterday, along with fellow Audi racers, Kelvin van der Linde and Nick Foster, looking for glory for Attempto Racing. So they're block booking that middle part of the grid. On the left, David Perel, looking for honours in Pro-Am class. He's 2nd in class as far as this grid is arranged. And Phil Keane, always an exciting driver to watch. He's racing the 3rd of the FFF Racing Team Lamborghinis. Yesterday's Pro-Am class winner Andrea Bertolini Air of course on the right-hand side. Thomas Neuber. Expect that 89 Mercedes to make its way forward. Then Oscar Tunjo, Frank Stippler getting down towards the back of the grids. Audi's almost as far as you can see, but then we flip over to Stefan Ortelli, bound to be working his way forward. He shares with Neil Stevenart, the leading AM class runner, Wolfgang Triller for HB Racing, and then the last few cars on the grid. Pierre Caffer, he got moved back. He had some penalties for contact. And Shea Davis, that car's been going very well. That's also going to come forward, the number 17 Audi. In the back row, newcomer this weekend, Adam Osieca, Gate Speed Performance joining the championship with its Mercedes. And Per Filioni will kick off in the Boutson Gignon AM class Lamborghini, that is the grid. John Watson fantastically quick up the stairs, along the pit lane, up the stairs to join me. How hot is it down there, John?
Well, it is still very hot. The big difference, there's a breeze blowing, which is just keeping the top, that high temperature, away from both the cars sitting on the grid. Of course, heat soak is one of the issues teams will be thinking about, but everybody's rolling down the grid into turn one. It's a slightly unusual grid compared to what we saw last evening, because the format of qualifying for these sprint rounds is that each driver qualifies in a given qualifying segment. So particularly in things like Pro-Am, where you may have a pro driver able to put the car, as we saw in the case of Fabian Schiller on the second row of the grid, whereas Nico Bastian, another Pro-Am driver who normally we see that car at the front of the grid, starting all the way back down on the 10th row. And of course, last night's winner, the FFF racing team, Andrea Caldarelli, Marco Mappelli, they started second row of the grid last night. Great pass round the outside on turn one. That's a bigger ask for Marco Mappelli to try and repeat what Caldarelli did. So, interesting grid and an interesting run. I did notice Raffaele Marciello getting together with Dries van Thor, all buddies, but I suspect there's an element of, you're not going to get ahead of me, you're not going to go around the outside, are you, Dries? So there were the respect between the two drivers I was impressed by.
There's respect, John, but there's also bound to be the nature of competitive beasts, just that little edge. What did he say, that comment? What was he really meaning by it? They'll be thinking, because particularly here at Misano, the first corner comes on you very, very quickly indeed. Turn one, a tight right. Tight left follows immediately afterwards. They would behave well yesterday. Marco Mappelli from 6th on the grid. Can he gain places as his teammate Andrea Caldarelli did yesterday? He's got to.
Yes, I thought it was interesting in last night's races, after we came to the final full course yellow, then safety car, when it went green track racing, the 563 Lamborghini Marco Mappelli was a little bit slower in picking up the pace, whereas Raffaele Marciello in the 88 Mercedes was that little bit quicker. But now you've got the Mercedes on pole position and the Audi, sorry, but not the Audi, the Lamborghini's 563 back on the third row. I mean, anybody's guess as to what's going to happen. Interesting, you got the ACA drivers, Nico Bastian and Vincent Abril sitting together watching. I thought Vincent was a little bit nervous and tense. His body language was, don't ask me a tricky question, please. I said I wouldn't do, but I knew that you could almost tip somebody, unsettle them, and I just thought, he'd give them something gentle.
Look, in a championship with 5 rounds, only 10 races, they dropped points at the opening round. They got a 4th place, no podiums and a retirement. So they feel they've dropped points. They've got to score everything. They absolutely cannot make a mistake. But the best place to start is from the lead, and that is where Raffaele Marciello will be starting.
And also, Vincent Abril is carrying 2 penalty points. So if he gets 3, then that would mean he would get a 5-grid penalty drop in the next round. So because the second of the 3 occurred here, it carries forward 2 weeks to the round at Zandvoort. So he needs to clear out all those points up to and through Zandvoort, then to ensure that there's no difficulty and no penalty in being imposed on that 88 at the next round. And that would be a handicap.
It most certainly would. Right, 28 cars lined up in 14 pairs as they come up out of turn 15, the penultimate corner, looking to the final corner. Bright blue skies, hugely high temperatures here at Misano. Maybe that breeze will help them. Let's look at the starting gantry. The lights are all red, as they should be. They go. It's an early drop to green. The last runners in the field not coming around the final corner, but Raffaele Marciello, brilliant start from pole position. It looks though Christopher Haase is trying to follow through, but no, Dries van Thor did just enough. 2-3 abreast down towards the tail of the field. They kept it tidy, and Fabian got the Phoenix Audi off, but a good job there by Fabian Schiller. Got really muscled around, looking at the tail of his car in great detail, but he managed to hold off that position. But place gained by Mirko Bortolotti. You revved him up on the grid, John.
Well, let's go racing, he said, and he's just gone and done that. I mean, Mirko was pumped. They were probably not happy that the rival Lamborghini team won last night, and he's going to try and redress that situation. Marco Mappelli, who started on the 3rd row of the grid, is still back in effect in that position that he started in.
Well, he's trying to regain a position, and that's, I think, on the tail of the 87, the Pro-Am Jim Pla-driven Mercedes that made a fantastic start. Yes, 87, getting to see that really, really close up. So a few people gaining positions, but most notably, Raffaele Marciello, a brilliant start from pole position, did what he needed to do, and in behind, around about 10th place. It's like yesterday evening, it's
Absolutely.
the Audis door to door.
It's a traffic jam of Audis all the way around turns 9, 10. Now you can see them 3 abreast coming down this dogleg straight to the Mercedes in the background, already on the grass, kicking up dust. And it's down at this part of the track yesterday where we saw most of the trouble arising going into turn 13, getting caught out on the outside, spinning around. That's where Charles Verts lost the lead of the race, and that put that number 2 Audi out completely.
And that wasn't just any Mercedes, that's the championship leading Mercedes. Maro Engel started on the 6th row of the grid, so dreadful qualifying. This is the car that consistently is on the podium. He doesn't want to take too many risks. He's got to stay cool, stay calm. Everyone's got to stay cool. So at the end of the opening lap, Raffaele Marcello looks like about half a second advantage over Dries Van Tor. Christopher Haas, the first 3 cars on the starting grid, 0.456 of a second is first to second. Great gains from Mirko Bortolotti from 4th up to 5th, but importantly, putting some of his rivals behind him.
So pretty much everybody has made it through the first lap without anybody coming into major contact. There was a little bit of touching and rubbing going through turns 1, 2 and 3, but fundamentally we've had a clean start, and now it's a focus on how much higher temperatures than we remember from what we saw last night. So tyre management, not overdriving the tyre in these early laps, trying to give the tyre a chance to, not just the surface, the whole core of the tyre to get to temperature, likewise for the pressures to come up. Dive down the inside, and that's a squeeze up the inside, and it's contact, and that will probably be seen. The 26, Marcus Winkelhock, tried to shut the door. The Mercedes kept coming. Jimmy Blah ended up having contact, and he may well have to make a pit stop as a consequence, or certainly a drive-through.
Well, he certainly came from a long way back. Jim Pla fired up by going from 10th to 8th on the opening lap of the race, trying to gain another position, but Marcus Winkelhock losing out there, being the assaulted. But Dries Van Tor trying to go the long way around Raffaele Marcello, who's on the outside line. That really is a long way around through the kinks on the back straight. He's got his nose in front, but he's not got enough track left. He's followed off the track by Christopher Haas, so back into the lead goes Raffaele Marcello. That was a signal of intent.
I mean, absolute. Dries Van Tor was on the outside for 3 corners. Now, that's not something I would have imagined anybody could do. And Christopher Haas, likewise, is giving Dries Van Tor a big area up.
And I tell you what, Mirko Bortolotti in 4th place might be thinking, I could be in a second any time now. These two are getting very, very loose in their chase of Raffaele Marcello. Marcello now almost exactly the same interval ahead as the previous time. Look at the orange and green Lamborghini closing in all the time, but Marcello being relatively smooth, but you can see at turn 2 actually pushing on.
But it's interesting that Van Tor was able to catch up round turn 9, 10, then all the way down the straight through 13, 14, 15, albeit he was being shoved out to the outside. But again, this the little bit of advantage that we see Raffaele Marcello have in the Mercedes in the first third of the lap opens that gap up fractionally, maybe by a 1/10 or more of a second as we now come through turn 7 down into turn 8.
Yeah, you really sense at the moment Mirko Bortolotti's got the speed, but of course, as Christopher Haas fights with with Dries Van Tor, and as we look at them, they've actually strung out for the first time all race. 5th place is Fabian Schiller, leading the Silver Cup class. Marco Mappelli started stick, is still in 6th place, but the gaps are starting to open out a little bit. As I say that though, Mappelli starts getting onto the tail of Schiller.
And again, it's through this turn 9, turn 10 that Dries Van Tor, running in 2nd place, is closing again, watching the attempt to, is that the sister car just directly in view, getting as close as you want to get with your sister car. So the battle there is the lead car. That's not the lead car, that's a little bit further back. The lead car has already gone through the picture, side by side. Black Falcon is potentially going to lose a position coming down, and that's something the 66 has made a strong pass. Kelvin van der Linde, good pass.
Very, very good pass. So we saw on the opening lap going down the back straight, we saw Maro Engel getting on the grass. This is a car that has such a fantastic, a 2nd, a 1st and a 3rd in the first 3 races. That's why it's leading the championship. But right now we have to wait for it even to come in the rear of the shot. Not yet, not yet, not yet. Marcello, only now he's in turn 16 as Marcello turns into turn 1.
I mean, that is a mountain for the Black Falcon Mercedes to try and climb. It will only be through maybe events above and beyond what the drivers are capable of doing that might see a change in overall position. So that's a disappointment indeed for Black Falcon, who've always been on the pace so far this season.
Okay, heat is continuing to be an issue for all these drivers, not just in the cockpit. It is tyre temperatures, how they manage them through the race. Who is looking smooth at all points? They're the drivers who are going to profit through the course of this race. But what we're seeing is the field is just starting to go one by one rather than generally side by side. Drivers are able to pick their lines far more conveniently. But look, 54 minutes remaining in this race, and Fabian Schiller almost being pushed through turn 8, the left-hand hairpin. Off the track, back on the track, but Marco Mappelli really starting to turn the screw in the 563 Lamborghini.
Yeah, I mean, the basic lap time between all the brands is very, very little indeed, and it'll just come down to what individual drivers may do, maybe push a bit too hard on their tyres, or maybe make a small error entering a corner. So all Mappelli is trying to do is put pressure on Fabian Schiller. So far, Schiller's looked totally bulletproof in that 5th place.
Yeah, but of the top 6 cars, the 5th and 6th are the 2 that are closest together. It's down to about, well, you can see about 0.2 of a second as they hit the anchors hard to get into the tight right that is turn 14. And this is intent from Mapelli. He's going to be shoveled to the outside, literally there, turn 15.
I mean, quicker through 14, but on the wrong part of the racetrack in 15. Had to back out of it, understandably. Then you can do a little bit of preparation. Much more economic on the exit of turn 16 than the Mercedes was. So can Marco Mapelli think he's got an opportunity? He's not close enough to the rear of the Mercedes to make a meaningful move.
Car 87 and 26 under investigation after contact. Well, we saw that contact that spun Marcus Winkelhock around. 87 still going in 8th place, leading the Pro-Am class, Jim Plyer. And here is Winkelhock fighting his way back up the order, but he's a long way down. He's in 21st position. Marcus would have calmed down. He's not a driver who gets overheated, but he certainly being over-rotated won't have impressed him down at turn 8.
No, I mean, it was a frustration. He probably felt that he had gained sufficient track position for Jimmy Plyer to concede the corner, but obviously 2 views of the same situation don't always coincide.
Yeah, Jimmy running a different race, of course. He's in the Pro-Am class. Timo Boguslawski sitting in the pit lane trying to keep a poker face, but inside he'll be in turmoil. His car going very well, leading the Silver Cup class. There it is, the number 90 ACA ASP Mercedes. And now has actually bought himself a few car lengths of advantage over Marco Mapelli. Maybe Mapelli just backing off a little bit, considering his options, getting ready to attack all over again.
I guess what you have to consider are all the things we know about the temperatures, primarily what that does to every aspect of the racing car. And if you follow so closely in the wheel tracks of a car that you're pursuing, you end up running at the pace they're running at. So, usual old story, if you have got that extra speed, then drop back, pick up your momentum and try and then use it at a point in the racetrack where the competitor you're battling with isn't quite as complete. Dries van Voor sliding the back of the Audi on the exit of turn 16. Wow, again.
Well, Fred Vervish wins the prize, and now he's been beaten by, I think that was Nick Foster going out wide. But just remember, John, how hot was it on the grid? It was very, very hot. These tyres are starting to take a real pounding, almost as much as that black and yellow curbing out beyond the curbs.
Yeah, I mean, it's the ambient temperature probably, I would think, early 30s. The wind, the breeze is helping keep the top off the temperature, but nevertheless in close proximity. And if you're not able to drive your race and use the part of the racetrack that you want to use, wow, look at that Mercedes, way.
Well, that's Jim Plyer, and he's under pressure from Fred Vervish. So earlier we saw Vervish going through turn 16.
Drive-through penalty to car 87.
Well, we're looking at 87. We're hearing
26 in turn 8.
We saw the crime, number 26, being spun round by Jim Plyer, who came very late down the inside into the left-hand hairpin, spun Marcus Winkelhock round. And I'm afraid our Pro-Am leader will no longer be the Pro-Am leader. That honour will go to the driver in 16th place at the moment in the 519 Lamborghini. Phil Keane sharing with Hiroshi Hamaguchi. He's in the lead of the class, but David Pirelli is a 10th of a second down. Let's take a look at the replay of the incident.
I mean, it was a big dive down the inside. And, well, it was adjudged that Jimmy Plyer was the guilty party. Marcus Winkelhock didn't provide any extra room. He squeezed.
It actually looked less bad for Jim Plyer on replay than it did. In
fairness, I think watching it in slow motion, it looked less bad than it was on our initial goal.
Yeah, he certainly signalled his intent quite early in the dive down into the corner. Come what may, unfortunately for the 87 ACA ASP Pro-Am class leader, he'll be calling into the pits for that drive-through penalty, undoing all his good work where he was very comfortable in the top 10. So Phil Keane will take the lead in the class. This battle for 5th place is hotted up again, as you thought it would, John. We thought hang back and then make good your attack. So Marco Mapelli, they're fighting for track position, not for class position. The silver class winner is the number 90 Mercedes, but really they're both just aiming for one thing, the podium.
And just to confirm what you have said, Marco Mapelli in sector 1 on the last lap had the fastest single sector of the race so far, so he has dropped back, pushing now, losing it again to the tail of Fabian Schiller. He needs to carry that momentum, and it doesn't really look to me, when he gets within a few tenths of a second or less of Schiller, then it all kind of stops. The forward progress just holds out.
So I think what we're going to see, we're only just over 10 minutes into this 1 hour long race, is as long as people are looking after their tyres at the moment, but if anybody's really pushing them hard, we'll suddenly see their performance start to drop away. We saw it last night when the conditions were cooler. It felt warm on the grid last night, but the sun was starting to go down, and the track temperature was what really changed through the course of the race as the sun We ended our race with the sun just dipping behind the spectator banking at the western side of the circuit. No such conditions this afternoon. It's hot, hot, hot.
I mean, just to give you an idea of just what the temperatures in the grid were like, it was unquestionably a factor 50 sun cream day.
There you go, full on. There are times I'm very happy to be sitting in the commentary box out of the sun. Raffaele Marciello continues to lead the race. He's now 1.3 seconds clear, waiting for the latest margin. 1.5, another good lap over Dries van Tor. For lap after lap, they were staying close together, but Raffaele is finding his form. You mentioned Mercedes, sweet on their tyres.
And I think the reason is that we know that the Mercedes, the balance of the car is such a well-sorted car that it marginally is easier on the rear tyre. And in this temperature, again, watching Mapelli coming right up at the tail of Schiller. Schiller slows down a lot, then he's able to accelerate off. Mapelli's having to wait all the time before he can get back onto the throttle. And that's the kind of seesaw that is normal when you're getting two cars chasing one another. But I would imagine that Dries van Tor, we did notice him a couple of laps ago, exiting turn 16, the car was almost dirt tracking, almost drifting out to the exit of the corner, and that would say to me that the rear tyre temperature is at the limit of what the tyre really wants to deal with.
Yeah, so still Marco Mapelli is the second best Lamborghini racer in the race. Oh dear, so someone has clouted the black and yellow sausage on the inside of the curb a little too hard. Well done to that marshal for clearing it up. But I was looking at the pace of Mirko Bortolotti, just about to come into shot. He's the best placed Lamborghini driver. There he is, the Grassa racing car, green with the orange colours up its flank, making no change at all, still staying in fourth place, can't get close enough to Christopher Haas. Must say Santalot Racing Team have really stepped up this year, and MISANO seems to suit their cars very well indeed.
Christopher Haas, who's in third place, he's just under a second behind Dries van Tor. We're not seeing a huge amount of the 25 Audi, but his sector time, sector 2, that's the fastest sector time recorded so far. So Christopher Haas, potentially, if he could find a space to get around Dries van Tor, maybe he could do a stronger job challenging the Mercedes.
Well, here's a chance of seeing them swinging into turn 1. It's just under a second between Dries van Tor, now just over a second back to Christopher Haas in third place. Then there's the gap. Now Fred Vervisch on his own, because Jim Pla has dived in to serve his drive-through penalty in the former Pro-Am class leading car. In fact, the new Pro-Am class leader had just gone through the shot. Phil Keane and Jim Pla has tumbled down the order, listed 18th. He'll come out in about 25th position. So first to second, 1.68 seconds is the gap between Raffaele Marciello in the 88. If you don't recognise it, it's red this weekend. It's been blue for several years, but maybe this is the change of luck. Second place last night, sharing with Vincent Abril. Maybe today will be the win that gets their season really, really back on track.
Out of the top 6, this is the battle, really. The other 4 in the top 6, Jimmy Plow rejoins the track after that drive-through penalty. So it is Fabian Schiller in 5th place, Marco Mapelli in 6th place. They are pretty much as they've been throughout this race, now on to its 9th lap. There is our race leader coming down the straight. 2nd place, Dries van Tor, falling back. Christopher Haas more or less equidistant. And then we get this battle finally for 5th place, Marco Mapelli. Can he line up? Can he do anything coming down to the bottom end of the circuit into turn 13? No way, and he's not been... Fabian Schiller has not put a wheel wrong in this defence of his 5th place.
No, absolutely not. Drove beautifully at Brands Hatch and had that retirement right at the end. Car started smoking at the end of the second race, so disappointment for that. ACA ASP crew on a day that was rather unkind to the team. Marco Mapelli just looking for now, just starting to see the handling maybe starting to change a bit on the Mercedes, a bit of a drift into turn 16. Jim Pla, I think he's come out in 26th position, just behind Adam Osieka in one of the new cars this weekend. Get Speed Performance arriving with their Mercedes, running in the AM class, so he'll soon be passed. But it's getting tight all over again with Mapelli.
Yeah, I mean, Mapelli really ran down Schiller coming into turn 2. Again, that sort of seesaw effect, but maybe Mapelli has just got the edge in terms of out-lap speed, but has to find a way. Where can he translate that into an overtaking manoeuvre? I mean, he looks quicker from that onboard shot than the Mercedes directly ahead does, yet the Mercedes is able just to stretch fractionally as they exit out through 6, through the curve of 7, and down into this left-hand corner at turn 8.
It's such an interesting lesson in physics, isn't it? Automotive dynamics, as you ride up close. Bit of battling between a couple of the attempted cars by Luke Cesar. It's the number 17 car, 56 car, that's the one with Matteo Drulli on board. He's in 9th place. The Aston Martin, haven't seen so much of that, but Hugo de Sadalier just up ahead of that grouping, but this is getting tight. And now what we're seeing is Mauro Engel in the Black Falcon Mercedes, number 4, trying to pick up positions, but he's still down in 12th. He started 11th, got shoveled on the grass on the opening lap. I expected come what may, because he and Lucas Stoltz have been just on it in every session. He'd be working his way forward.
But he's got a big problem, and that problem is Kelvin van der Linde, but he's gone the long way around the South African, but he's not going to make it stick because Kelvin van der Linde is holding a station side by side into turn 13. Mercedes forced wide, needs to be careful that he doesn't let the Audi directly behind, then find that way through as well. Manchega in the 555.
Yeah, Manchega getting very, very close indeed. Fabulous racing there, but just to point out, when you go down that back straight, there are 3 kinks the right-hand side, and lots of drivers getting wrong through the final one, turn the kink 13. But that was brave from Mauro Engel. They're not as brave, though, as we saw on the opening lap from Dries van Tor, trying to go around the outside of Raffaele Marcello, rode it out, didn't have it work for him, but that was super brave. But again, trust between rivals.
Yeah, it's Drudy, I beg your pardon, not Manchega. It was Drudy who actually got ahead of the Lamborghini, so he has made up a position, but Mauro Engel is under pressure. At the same time, he's trying to do something. Kelvin van der Linde is as tough as they come.
Most certainly his second generation racer, Etienne van der Linde, his father, and his brother also, Sheldon, races in Europe too, and they've really made a name for themselves, most notably in Audis. But you look at that sort of performance, they'll be quick in any sort of car you put them in. So Raffaele Marcello leading by a fraction under 2 seconds now from Dries van Tor. Looking at just the tail end of the top 10, Mauro Engel still trying to make up places in that number 4 Mercedes. He's up to 11th with the demise of Drudy, well, only the demise by a couple of places, and still Mapelli is hunting Schiller, looking up close, but again, there hasn't been a chink.
No, and again, Schiller isn't offering up any opportunities whatsoever. He's making the Mercedes, he's doing everything correctly. It's just wherever Mapelli wants to go, it's being covered by Schiller.
One of many, many battles in the field, but this has been the one that's lasted the longest. We're 18 minutes nearly into this race. It seems longer. There's been so much race action squeezed in by these 28 cars going around last position, and it looks seemingly, well, in the pits having repairs is Marcus Winkelhock. He was the one that was clouted and spun around, so it's unfortunate for him. Everyone else is still going around the circuit and going very fast indeed. How their tyres are starting to feel now is anybody's guess, but I think we're going to see the signs of those who's pushed them too hard very soon indeed.
And some of the signals for that will be the amount of curbing they're using on the inside of a corner and the amount of curbing on the exit, because they're looking for every bit of racetrack they can try and grab onto to give them some form of grip. I mean, on the inside, the running curbs, on the exit of corners, are running curbs, particularly out of turn 6. That's actually very mild from Marco Mapelli. So again, maybe just drop back. But we're 6 minutes away from the pit lane opening. There's a 10-minute opening for people to come in. Now, if I was running the 563 car, assuming that the number 90 Mercedes doesn't come in at the same time, I would have my man Mapelli in and do the driver changeover, get Andrea Caldarelli back into that car, make the earlier opportunity, try and make it work for you.
You'd have to think so, and if you were the boss of Acker ASP, you'd keep Raffaele Marcello out at the head of the field as long as you possibly can. He's just stretched his advantage to 2.3 seconds now over Dries van Tor. He's got clear track ahead of him, and he's making the very most of it. And another sign that the tyres are starting to go off. Our commentary box is just outside the exit of turn number 16, and more I see a puff of smoke coming past. It's the dust off the gravel track. Drivers lap after lap are dropping their wheelies. Let's now enjoy the race action with Kelvin van der Linde looking through the windscreen of the 66 Attempto Audi, and he is pushing very hard. His teammate is the car in front, that's Nick Foster, and right in front of Nick Foster, Hugo de Sadalier in the number 62 Aston Martin, doing a really good job.
So while Kelvin van der Linde is having to fend off Mauro Engel behind him, he's also focusing on those two cars directly ahead. So he has got to have one eye in the mirror and one eye on the racetrack.
Yeah, don't forget Luca Drudy was up with that battle. He's got shoveled to the back of it, but the Italian who lives just around the corner from the circuit is absolutely sure to be trying to get back in on this action. So the 62 Aston Martin, second in the Silver Cup class, is running around in 8th position, but he has company and lots of it. There he is at the front of the bunch.
And in fact, in just this group of 4 cars, Mauro Engel has dropped back momentarily from that little group again. Maybe Mauro Engel's deciding I've pushed very hard. I don't want to push any more than I need to do. I want to give myself a chance. But Kelvin van der Linde, he is thinking, was that Nick Foster actually maybe thinking about making a move on the 62 Aston Martin down into turn 8. It is the 55 Nick Foster.
I think as much as anything, he was just signalling to Kelvin van der Linde that I'm the guy who's going to be doing the attacking. Stay off my tail. I've got to try and depose the Aston Martin. But look at the body language of the the Audi with the red flashes on it. That's Kelvin van der Linde. He doesn't want to let his teammate get away one iota. Let's look at them running out wide, wide, wide and beyond. Most notably Nick Foster, 2 wheels off the ground, if not 4.
Almost taking off.
And little bits flying out from under the car, whether they were little strips of the rubbing strips on the outside of the circuit, but that was a Rodeo moment. Probably his front splitter most likely though, because he got airborne, came back down. We didn't notice that in real time, but he's still in there, still challenging, but maybe.
And of course, Kelvin van der Linde, who wants to get through these 2 cars, he wants to make progress because he knows he's got Maro Engel. He gets embroiled in a battle that's not really anything to do with him, and it could be, and it dives down the inside, but there's going to be contact. There is contact. Nick Foster's like a snooker ball, put into the back pocket. No, he's not. He's in the gravel trap. Sorry.
Well, he's travelled on through. He's come out just behind the Pro-Am
and again,
Ferrari, of course, and that was
in reality. It'll be looked at. It'll be deemed whether it was a clean, fair pass or not. But it was Kelvin van der Linde. His patience had expired.
3, 2, 1. Full course yellow now.
Full course yellow. Maybe that's debris on circuit. Looking for any other sign. We saw that. Big moment for Nick Foster, and it's debris at turn 1, I've been told, so it might have even come off Nick Foster's car when he eventually rejoined when he got up there, but come what may, full course yellow. So just remember, it was a 2.5 second lead for Raffaele Marcello at the point the full course yellow period was thrown, and don't forget there should be no gaining of track. You shouldn't be compressing any track intervals.
But we've got a full course yellow just under 3 minutes from the pit lane opening, so there'll be a lot of thought going on, head scratching on the pit wall as we see Kelvin van der Linde, and he will probably think, not my fault, Gov. So there we go, we've got the old drill out screwing.
So they're going to remove the black and yellow rubber strap. I'm totally concerned that a car came past still at full racing throttle past us in our position. Wasn't any of the front runners. I think it was right down at the tail of the field. I will not name names, but here is that battle, 62 and 66. It was 62 with Hugo de Satterdier and the Aston Martin ahead of Nick Foster. Nick Foster, unfortunately, after that ride and then the runoff through the gravel at turn 16 is down in 18th place. Take a look at it,
this
John.
is a really late dive down the inside, and the reality, there was no way. Nick Foster didn't expect it. The contact occurred. You know, it's going to be looked at, and I assume, I would make an assumption that it was going to be Kelvin van der Linde judged. I mean, he's not far enough up alongside to say that was his corner. That's my view. It's down to the stewards. They'll take a decision and they will then act upon that judgment.
Well, come what may, it's going to be very good news for Maro Engel. That gets him up to 10th place. Not good news in its own right, but of course, if then there is a problem for Kelvin van der Linde, it's a few more points that will come into the pot. And when you started the long way down the grid and hadn't been making any progress, had your scare down the back straight on the opening lap, Maro Engel might have been thinking there will be no points today. Still the second half of the race to come. Still Lucas Stoltz to take the Black Falcon car to the finish, but you can see the corner strips being removed where they've been tattered and battered by the cars that have been out running wide. The crews in the pit lane would rather stay in the shade, but they're getting ready for the flurry of pit stops that are sure to follow.
So the outcome of all this is that now Maro Engel finds himself by more default than anything else in 10th place, directly behind Kelvin van der Linde. Kelvin van der Linde is going to look at away. We've got a full course safety car now. Full course yellow will be withdrawn. It'll be a safety car, and it'll probably be a very short safety car, I would assume, because within a minute the pit lane's going to open.
Yeah, and don't forget, when the safety car comes out, the gaps can be closed. That 2.5 second advantage for Raffaele Marcello will be closed right down to next to nothing. So a second chance for Dries van Tor. And maybe that will also change the tactics for when the crews bring their cars in. If it had stayed as it was, I thought Marcello would stay out as long as he possibly can. I still think he most likely will. But look how the Lamborghini's dropped right back. The Grasser car with Mirko Bortolotti's got Fabian Schiller all over its tail.
So they need to get themselves into position. The one that really did get a hurry up was Christopher Haase. He's on the tail of Dries van Tor. Dries van Tor within, whatever it's worth, half a second of the race leading 88 Mercedes-Benz. So there is Marco Mappelli working the wheels on the Lamborghini to try and get temperature back into those front tires after, what, 4 laps, 3 laps behind, or under a full course yellow.
So calm before the next storm. And the pit stop window, I've just been told, has been delayed by 3 minutes. So gentlemen of the pit crews, ladies and gentlemen of the pit crew, probably get back into the shade. It's very, very hot in the pit lane.
The pit window opening will be delayed by 3 minutes due to the safety car procedure.
I've never known that happen before. I mean, I'm delighted that it has done, because otherwise it would have thrown, you know, proceedings into chaos. So the safety car will eventually return to the pit lane. the race will get back underway, but it will be at the point when the pit lane is about to be opened. So the early stoppers, well, they're just going, as you point out, Bruce, back into the shade of the garage, the wheels and tires, staying out on the pit lane in preparation for a late call from the driver. He might decide to make that shot down the pit lane and catch the team maybe by surprise.
The one driver who's not being able to regain positions as he would have planned because of the safety car period in the full course yellow is Jim Ply. He had that drive-through penalty. He's down in 25th of the 27 runners. Had been up in 7th, 8th position and looking comfortable leading Pro-Am. And I'm afraid that little contact that spun Marcus Winkelhock round has cost him big time indeed.
But not so far been notified of any indication of a review of the incident between Nick Foster and Kelvin van der Linde. That no doubt may come. There's been enough to concern with the full course yellow and the safety car. So I wonder whether the safety car will be coming in very shortly. I'm assuming it could be as early as at the end of this lap.
Yeah, so at times like this we have to look at the moving monitor, the timing screens for any messages coming up from race control. Keep an eye, see if anybody's in trouble. But right now, ahead of the pit stops, we've got Raffaele Marcello leading from Dries Van Tor, Christopher Haas, Mirko Bortolotti, Fabian Schiller and Marco Mappelli. They're the top 6, as they have been for a long time. Fred Vavish in the pale blue Audi number 11 will be running in 7th for Phoenix Racing. They're the best of the Aston Martins, the better of the Aston Martins, because there are already 2. Hugo de Sadalier running very well indeed. He's second in the Silver Cup class in 8th place overall. And rounding out the top 10, the feisty Kelvin van der Linde and Maro Engel, the delayed but trying to catch up Black Falcon Mercedes in 10th place.
Safety car in at the end of this lap.
I think another word might be pugnacious we could use for Kelvin van der Linde. You said if there's a gap, he'll go for it. If there's half a gap, and if there's no gap, he's proved all of those options, he'll go for it.
I mean, I like Kelvin van der Linde. I think he's a great racing driver. He maybe just got a bit, well, no maybe about it. He got greedy in that attempt to pass Nick Foster out of frustration, but you have to learn to control those emotions. You can't magic a car out of your way.
Safety car at the end of this lap, and a lot of drivers are going to have to really pick up the pace. There's still quite big gaps. It's very tight for the first 4 runners, and then so do you want to hang back and dive into the pit lane? The clock, when it gets to 32, the pit lane will be open. Let's watch the front runners. The first few are going to pass pit lane entry before it is open. They're going through turn 15 now. Have they hung back enough? Looks like Marcello's considering it. He's missed opportunity, but from 4th place, Bortolotti, who else would have made that quick dive?
That's a great call. That is the call that could see the Grasser Racing Lamborghini take victory here at the end of 1 hour racing.
And I mean, the Grasser team is one that loves winning, but of course its nose is out of joint. It lost the big Lamborghini deal, and the victory yesterday really was salt in its wound. The victory for the FFF Racing team that grasped the Lamborghini deal, now getting very, very close out there. That's Kelvin van der Linde. Who else? He's attacking Hugo de Sadalier. Hugo having a great race in the Aston Martin, but look at the grey Audi tucked in behind. You almost feel that Matthias Drudy in behind could pick up the pieces of that, because it's going to be a quarrel. But an inspired dive into the pits by Mirko Bortolotti.
And the 10 comes in as well, so that's
Oscar Tunjo right down at the tail of the field.
Yes, down on 26, well, that's the point.
But they've got the pit lanes themselves.
Perfect. I mean, you couldn't have wanted, if the Audi is rolling, the Lamborghini's still up on its jacks. What has happened to the Lamborghini pit? It has been a nightmare. That has thrown all the good work, all the concept of maybe taking victory, coming in at the earliest opportunity, and it's all been blown. We don't know why on the left-hand side, whether it was the left front or the left rear. I think it might have been the left front, didn't either come off or wouldn't get back on, whatever it is. That is something that's the nightmare. Now Christian Engelhardt has lost 3 places to these 3 cars directly ahead of it. We were never really in the race in the first place.
No, so just remember that was in 4th place, looking comfortable. And the only chance to convert that to coming out in the lead of the race was diving in super early.
1 minute 13.5.
That's changing the pages on the calendar, isn't it? That's not changing the wheels on the car.
I mean, that's get the deck chairs out and let's have an ice cream.
Okay, now the best of the rest diving into the pit lane. So that was the roll of the dice of victory. Looked good by diving in. It looks very bad by that super slow pit stop. Nothing super about it at all. Ultra slow pit stop. And I think we'll see that not coming out in 4th place clearly. It'll be down outside the top 10. So Marco Mappelli, yesterday's race winner, along with Andrea Caldarelli. Mappelli out, Caldarelli in into the really ultra-hot cockpit. These cars are not going to be pleasant places to be this afternoon, but if you've got a snip of victory, half an hour to go, it's where these racing drivers come and earn their corn. Looking quite slick on the wheels on this side, but just remember, Raffaele Marcello still leading the race by just over a second, just under a second from Dries Van Tor. Had been 2.5 seconds clear, the safety car.
Look at that rolling already. And
but having to swerve out.
Absolutely, a tight exit 4, but Andrea Caldarelli, but that's a very good pit stop once again by the FFF Racing team. So if they can make up positions by executing good pit stops, a lot easier than we've seen from finding a way around on a competitive car on a racetrack that doesn't offer up all that many opportunities.
And every time I look at this pit exit, I think the car's having a problem. They have to stay so slow for so long, and eventually they turn to the right. They can't see over the barriers. They're semi-blind on exit, but where is he going to tuck back in? Looks like Fred Vervish. Is that still coming around in the Phoenix number 11 Audi?
Well, we have to remember that the 563 Lamborghini was in battle with Fabian Schiller, who's still currently in 4th position. So we have to wait to see where Schiller, when he comes in and hands over. So that's going to be an issue for Timur Bogoslavsky. He's going to find himself under real threat.
Okay, we're just looking for position there. The number 62 Aston Martin has made its pit stop, and it's right with Mirko Bortolotti's teammate Christian Engelhardt. Shows how far it's fallen. The number 11 Audi now in the hand of Finley Hutchinson. The Scot going a little bit wide, and the blue Black Falcon Mercedes picking it off with Lucas Stoltz going around the outside, going, well, not quite given by, well, Finley showing he's made of tough stuff.
He's going to try and make the undercut on the exit of turn 10, so that's what Lucas Stoltz is looking to do. The Audi was very tight, so there we see the two cars coming side by side. Lucas Stoltz has got the high ground, in other words, he's on the inside as they come down. And Finley Hutchinson's going to have to drop back in behind the Mercedes-Benz. There is the Fabian Schiller car in for its stop. Stopped a little bit away from the pit. It's not going to be an easy stretch for the gun and the airline to get that car up.
Which was the car just behind him in the pit lane? It was Raffaele Marciello's 88 Mercedes. They came in from the lead of the race. Dries Van Tor is also in the number 2 Audi. They were first and second. Let's see how they go out. The 90 car that's been doing so well in the Silver Cup class, still up on the jacks.
So Fabian Schiller walking back into the ASP garage. His job is done. So the car is, again, look at the angle of the car. It's been sitting there. Whether there has been a problem, I think the position the car stopped in has not really made it easy for the team to be able to work on it.
Yeah, no, I think that he wasn't the friend of the mechanics there. So waiting for it all to settle down, the race leader was in. In fact, David Pirelli is leading the race. He has yet to pit. He's the leading runner in Pro-Am. He's the leading runner in the race for now, but that was a car that started way back down the order towards the tail of the grid. Always well placed in the Pro-Am class, but it's very busy out on track. It's the reshuffling. The cars that weren't racing together are now racing together. Still, the pit stop goes on for the number 90 Mercedes.
I mean, there's something obviously clearly has happened that the number 90 Mercedes. What? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I can't explain it.
But as Fabian Schiller walked into the garage, his shoulders seemed right down. He looked really, really despondent.
He got out of the car and walked away. And then there looked to be, I mean, there's nobody around the car.
So I think he took the keys with him by the looks of things. So, last few pit stops being made. The pit stop window will close soon or soon about. Who has just set the fastest first sector time of anyone? Andrea Caldarelli, yesterday's race winner.
So there is 55. It's up on his jacks. So Andrea Caldarelli has also just set fastest sector first time in that first sector. So again, another masterclass from the team owner, one would say, or the team principal, or however you describe it, and as number 1 driver within that team.
And again, we saw yesterday he was very, very good on restart. Seemed so confident in his Huracan that he was able to just know the heat in the tyres. Marco Mappelli took a little bit of time in the second stint. Then once he was happy, settled down and went on to score the win, and a good win indeed. Just under a second ahead of Vincent Abril and Raffaele Marciello. So waiting for the order to settle down. Still 3 cars have yet to pit, all in the Pro-Am class. David Pirelli, Philip Keane and Andrea Bertolini. And Jim Pla has just come in. Well, you know, he's got to serve his pit stop. He'd been in the pits, but that was a drive-through penalty for Jim Pla in the 87 Mercedes. So jockeying for position. These are 2 cars, Audis, that started right at the tail of the grid. Now in the hands of Tom Campbell and Kim Lewis-Schramm, 17 ahead of 5.
So waiting to see where Vincent Abril in the 88 Mercedes. There it is, in fact, the car that led this race from lights out. So Vincent Abril.
Look at that pit stop time, 1 minute 38. I mean, we were complaining about 1 minute 13 for a sister car. What went wrong?
I don't know.
What went wrong? So it's all gone away. Often when you cut to the pitch, you can't tell when exactly the car had come to a standstill. You swing up and down the pit lane, picking up the action, but something seriously went wrong. And we also had a very slow pit stop for number 90, the sister car from ACA ASP, that's down in 25th position and falling after that lengthy pit stop.
2 ASP cars. One was I can't believe how long it was, and the car Fabian Schiller, the 90, well, I think it's still up on the air jacks.
Well, listed as 5th position, but there are 4 cars ahead of it that haven't stopped. So this is our race leader. It went wrong. He crashed out of 2nd place last night. 18-year-old Charles Weerts taken over from Dries Van Tor. number 2 on the door, it was number 2 as its position, but now with the problem for the 88 ASP Mercedes, a big problem. It's put the number 2 Audi into the lead of the race. It looks so Sansalot Racing is in second place now. Yes, Simon Gachet, and then Andrea Caldarelli started 6th. Suddenly he's looking at a podium position, and he's far from finished.
Absolutely, so he's going to try and get his focus 2.5 seconds down on Simon Gachet in second place, who is a further 2.2 seconds down on race leader Charles Vert. So we've got 24 minutes of this race to run, and who's to say there will not be other full course yellows safety car interventions. Otherwise, it's Charles Vert to lose. He did make that error, pulled out in turn 13 in Saturday evening's race, but he came here a new day, positive, everything going forward, not thinking back.
Okay, just wanted to throw something into the mix. 2 cars under investigation for full course yellow procedural issues. Car number 90, that's the Timo Boguslawski car that Fabian Schiller brought in, and 63, the Lamborghini that we thought had pulled off the masterstroke until it had slow, and here come all of the Pro-Am runners in together. David Pirelli, who held the lead of the race by staying out the longest, but you can see its rivals tucked in behind. Phil Keane in the Lamborghini, Andrea Bertolini in the black and white Ferrari, just going through our shot. That was 3rd in class, and Jim Ply had already served a drive-through penalty at the back of the pack. Once they're off the track, that means Charles Wirtz will be at the top of the timesheets. He's already made his pit stop, taken over from Dries van Tor, and is sitting, what's his advantage over Simon Gachet? 2.2 seconds last time around.
Yeah, I mean, it's, one might say, in these circumstances, a comfortable enough lead. What it doesn't need is for one error in one of these corners, because that will see that 2.2 seconds just evaporate, and that will give Simon Gachet the opportunity, the momentum, and the inspiration to hunt down what is currently the leading number 2.
Which car is in fourth place, John?
Lucas Stoltz,
Lucas Stoltz beat you to it, but and he's not that far off the tail of Andrea Caldarelli. I was just looking at Caldarelli turning down towards turn 1, thinking, right, he's now going to start hunting down Simon Gachet. Then suddenly, this is why this team is so class. There was no progress ostensibly being made by Black Falcon in the first part of the race. Only just got into the top 10. They did their pit stops. Others had problems. They found the track position, and now they're going forward.
Well, the race isn't just about what you do on the racetrack. It's the pit lane, and as often as ever, we see races the position, the favoritism, if you want, being turned upside down, and that's what's happened. We've had 2 poor pit stops indeed.
Penalty to car 15, to car 63, and for car 90, full course yellow violation. Full course yellow violation at the beginning of the procedure.
Okay, it's the start of the procedure, not the end when they dive towards the pit stops, and that's Mirko Bortolotti. He won't be a happy bunny. He's down in 12th position.
Yes, and further down is one of the 15, the Buzzo Gignon Lamborghini. So a number of drivers, 3 in total, getting called out by that full course of yellow, where you are required to slow down and not make progress or make ground on the car ahead of you.
So Mirko Bortolotti might have hoped he could fight his way up to the points, running in 12th position, but in fact slightly higher, because that was with 4 Pro-Am cars that were sitting in the pit lane. So he got up to 8th, undoing their slow pit stop, but now he's got to drive through the penalty. That'll drop him to the back. Timo Boguslawski took over the 90 Mercedes. That had that really long pit stop, so it's not affecting them too much.
You know, the irony of all this is that the drivers who committed the offences are now sitting back in the pit garage. There was Christian Engelhardt in the 63 Lamborghini. He's going to be the driver who's done all the hard yards since he's got into the car. He's going to have to take the penalty.
Hopefully all 3 drivers in question, they've just taken this moment to grab an ice cream and walk out of the back of the pit garage away from the crew. They're the ones that stumbled. Right, first, second and third. Second place Audi coming through. Simon Gachet, Andrea Caldarelli. Who's hunting it down? Lucas Stoltz. Lap after lap, he's closing.
I don't know, am I seeing things, or is this a visual sort of mirage? But has turn 6 exit become entirely a different corner? Look how wide coming through the exit of turn 8 the Lamborghini got. As we go back to Lucas Stoltz in that 4th place. Mercedes chasing Andrea Caldarelli. Suddenly, Lucas Stoltz just under a second behind the 3rd place Lamborghini. Lap times more or less identical to within 100th of a second a lap.
Yeah, but I think the capability is for Caldarelli and Stoltz to catch, or certainly start to close in on the leader, Charles Wirtz and Simon Gachet. Gap between first and second, 2.4 seconds, and then never more than 2 seconds between any of the drivers behind. So 5 seconds. Covering the top 4. So what is happening? Let's have a look around the course of this lap. Who is making gains, who's making losses? In fact, Charles Wirtz has settled down. He's now starting to pull clear. The first part of that, though, Caldarelli, again, we get the difference between the manufacturers, John. Certain points on the circuit, the Lamborghini super quick. There's second, third and fourth going through and over the curbing at turn 6.
And then just looking at the first 4 coming through, the best looking car is the 3rd place car, the Lamborghini. So others sliding a little bit wider over those curbs on the exit of turn 16, doing a lot of shock load into the suspension, into the tyre.
With all the changes here in 5th place, Finlay Hutchinson, then Rick Breukers sharing with Oscar Tunjo, started right down at the tail of the field. He is now the leading Silver Cup runner. He's got company. He's got Nico Bastian right in behind in the Acura ASP Mercedes, a driver who's got to restore some confidence for the team because they've had problems for all 3 of the other cars.
Well, Nico Bastian certainly more than capable on the old hand. Look, now there's the exit of turn 6. How wide do you have to go before you end up almost in the straight going past the pits?
Yeah, they run parallel. One goes past us one way and it comes back the other way. Then down to turn 8. This is the corner, the left-hand hairpin.
Again,
and,
I mean, how wide
Finlay,
are they going? I mean, they're really, really exceeding the limit by a substantial margin. But that's simply because they just run out of grip.
Absolutely so. You've still got a car in behind them, the number 63 Lamborghini, the Grassa Racing car, has to serve a drive-through penalty. Mirko Bortolotti is probably just fuming at the moment, deciding I was going to pick up some useful points from this. Now you're not, I'm afraid, Mirko.
I think it's Christian Engelhardt. I don't know why the transponder...
Oh, sorry, of course, Mirko started the race.
Yes,
You spoke to him. It's Christian. Yes, you're quite right.
But the transponder still showing Mirko Bortolotti, so the driver maybe has not flicked the switch. But look, it's not bad. This is Nico Bastian pushing. Breukers in the number 10.
Well, in all of that, we had the 66 Acura ASP, the Attempto racing car. Clement Schmidt has taken it over from Kelvin van der Linde. It's been warned for respecting track limits at turn 16, the final corner on the lap. We're looking at a whole host of cars going out beyond the curbing there, and I think more warnings will be coming through the course of this race. Race leader Charles Weerts leading with an advantage of 2.8 seconds. He's pulling ever further clear, but this is a fantastic little battle. 6th and 7th places. Rick Breukers and Nico Bastian still in that order, but the Mercedes seems to have the pace right now, trying to unsettle the young Dutchman.
Yes, and Nico Bastian, you can see clearly, the quicker it gets the nose of the Mercedes up the inside, but will he be able to swoop across the front of the Audi? No, he can't, but he's going to take the undercut. The next opportunity is going to come going down into turn. Breukers just cuts right across the front of the Mercedes, almost scythes the nose off, and once again Bastian is on the outside of the corner. It'll be the undercut in the exit. If I was Breukers, I would stand the Audi on his nose in the middle of turn 8 and force the same from Nico Bastian.
Well, he certainly wasn't scared to run wide, but it is a matter surely of when, not if. That nose of the blue Mercedes keeps coming up the inside. This is the battle for Silver Cup honours, but Breukers, made of tough stuff, resists it all, and so Nico Bastian's going to have to find another place to go past. 2 car lengths as they go down the back straight through the kink at turn 11, right here. And another right-hander, kink, turn 12, the tighter one at 13. A lot of drivers start to run out off the circuit down there, and all along Mirko Bortolotti, due to serve a drive-through penalty, is still just sitting in their wheel track. Christian Engelhardt, I beg your pardon, I keep looking at the screen, I keep forgetting. Thank goodness John's here to remind me.
So the battle for the top, or for the podiums, pretty much settled, but Lukas Stolz, fastest overall, not surprisingly in 4th place, in that middle sector, just giving a purple time. Fastest lap overall, Lukas Stolz, 135.4, that was on lap 19.
Yeah, but Lukas Stolz just did a really good first sector on that last lap, so the top 4 cars, about 2 tenths between them in terms of their lap times. It fluctuates one way, then the other, but Charles Weerts, the clock is ticking down, 16 minutes to go in this race. I'm sure he's very cool, calm and collected out of the car. Let's see what he's like. So there we are, Christian Engelhardt, special reminder for me on the screen. Mirko Bortolotti, the smaller figure means he's got out of the car. But still that battle between the number 10 Audi, Rick Breukers, and the 89 car. Right, just been told why all those penalties were. So great, just had news from the pit lane. The 88 car, don't forget Raffaele Marcello came in from the lead, but unfortunately the radio problems, the team was not ready for him. How excruciating, all the work that Raffaele did before Vincent Abril took it over. Where is the car now? He's actually just gained a position, but it's small consolation because that's just moving from 21st to 20th position. Vincent Abril was bound to pick up some more positions in the last quarter of the race, but really hard luck for the crew there.
Look, electronics, things happen, and what disappointment. You lead the race fundamentally without any pressure whatsoever, and then there's an issue that the team weren't prepared. They're sitting there looking at, wondering how we're going to deal with the pit stop. All of a sudden the car's sitting, you're looking at it, and we weren't prepared.
So here's the 88 arriving. What are you doing here? They had to push it back. You can see the tyres aren't ready, so it's an absolute disaster. The tall figure of Raffaele Marcello. Oh, look at the slamming of the door. He knew he'd done a fabulous job at the head of the race. He built that nearly 3-second advantage, looked peerless. And it was the Raffaele we don't see so much. It's a Raffaele leading from the front, not fighting his way through the order. But he did everything he did. He lost the advantage with the safety car coming out, but still he was in that primary position. Should have been able to hand it over. Vincent should have been able to bring it through to the finish, but not to be the case today.
So riding on board with Christian Engelhardt. We got it now. No, still showing Marco Bortolotti, but it is Christian Engelhardt behind the wheel of the 63 Lamborghini. He's looking at the rear of Nico Bastian's Mercedes. He's looking at the rear of Rick Broeker's Audi, and still looks up the inside of the turn 8, but the Audi just shuts the door, and Bastian's got to get out of it big time. I mean, everybody has almost given up on track limits and just using anything that isn't actually green. And there is bits of the racetrack on the outside of the corners there, but on the inside there, so anything is available, use it.
Yeah, you almost feel some parts of the tracks haven't even been visited yet, but lots of the areas out beyond. So still, Christian Engelhardt running behind this Silver Cup battle. 6th and 7th positions, he's tucked it behind, still has to serve the drive-through penalty. Another warning on screen, Timo Bogoslawski has to all track limits. Now we've got a move, that's Vincent Abril picking his way back up, going past, that's Hiroshi Hamaguchi, not a driver he'd normally competing against. You normally find Vincent at the front end of the field. We'd explain why with the radio problems. The 88 Acura ASP Mercedes leading the race came in before it was ready. And number 90 seems to be going slowly. Front right puncture's gone down. That's already just been given a penalty, warning.
Again, that was a pit stop. That was in confusion. We didn't see anybody working on the car, and that's picked up. There's
the wheels come off.
The carcass of the tyre has come away. Luckily, he's not a million miles away from pit lane entry. He's got to get the car slowed down. So the load is going to be on the left-hand side. So the right, he's now actually slowed down. He realises that he hasn't got an awful lot of grip. And that's because there is nothing left other than the sidewalls. That was the carcass of the tyre, the sidewalls, keeping the car from grinding the carbon fibre away.
Now, where did that carcass end up? Did it go away from the edge of the circuit? For Timo Bogoslawski, he's made it to the pits. Something about him and trying to finish races. The second race at Brands Hatch, his car was smoking and pulled to the side of the circuit on the final lap. Right now, though, Charles Weerts, here he comes in the number 2 Audi, leading the race, 2.4 seconds from Simon Gachet. In between them, the Buisson-Gignon Lamborghini in the AM Cup class, but the clock's counting down, only 12 minutes to go. So for Charles Weerts, there is the tyre carcass, well picked up by the cameraman down there, but it's not quite off the racing line. But I think half the field has seen it at this point.
Whether that would be sufficient to have a full course yellow or not to remove the carcass, it is on the racetrack, and it's never ideal. So there's what's left of the tyre. You can see basically, well, what is it left? And just checking for any damage, because when that's flailing around inside the wheel arch, you can do a lot of damage. So they just had a quick look and see nothing obvious, put another wheel on and send it.
Yeah, tyre preservation was always going to be key to this race, and whether that was debris on the track that caused that puncture that then led to the tyre carcass coming off is anybody's guess. But it's hot, it's tricky, and very sticky in the cockpits. But for the drivers who've got out there trying to cool down, and those who are staying on board, who've taken over, including Charles Weerts, who are leading the race, they're trying their best to stay very, very cool indeed. Number 2 Audi, 2.5 seconds clear of Simon Gachet. And this race running into its final stages. And finally, the 63 Lamborghini serves its drive-through penalty. Could have been a good result here. They worked very hard, had a slow pit stop, which really scuppered their chances. But still, with the imperious pairing of Bortolotti and Engelhardt, it was looking set for a good result. Number 90 back into the race, 4 wheels on its wagon, but is already right down at the tail of the order.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a race of ifs, ands, or buts, and people that we thought potentially going to be a podium winner, and that's all been turned upside down. Charles Weerts in the number 2 Audi, a great drive initially by Dries van Thor, brought that car in second place, handed it over to Charles Weerts, and who is doing an excellent job in the lead by just over 2.5 seconds from Simon Gachet. Andrea Caldarelli only 3 seconds, 3/4 of a second there. We can see from Caldarelli's view, that's the second place. And Caldarelli closes down, and that's in turn 4 through 5, then through turn 6.
Yesterday we lost Charles Weerts from second place, running really, really strongly, but he was the top Audi. Then the rest were way down to the end of the bottom of the top 10, but they're running first, second, 5th and 6th, and completing the top 10 in 10th. So much better day for the Audi crews here at Misano. The hotter conditions in the afternoon. Yesterday's race was in the late afternoon into the evening.
Simon Gachet is struggling for traction coming out of turn 2. You can see how much Andrea Caldarelli was able to close down. Really have a look down the inside. I think he's going to be almost ceded the position. Simon Gachet really just got nothing left in the tank as far as grip is concerned, and that's given Andrea Caldarelli the momentum as well as the inspiration to take that lunge down the inside. And it was a non-challenged manoeuvre. Simon Gachet just said, I can't do any more, I'm going to give you it.
Yeah, it's ironic. That was the corner where yesterday he hit the back of the Grasser Racing Lamborghini and spun it around. That's up at turn 4, but clearly, as you pointed out, John, the grip has gone for the number 25 Audi, back down into 3rd position. But what a weekend for Andrea Caldarelli, who's at the wheel of the 563 Lamborghini right now, and Marco Mapelli. Let's take a look at that move again. Up the inside he went, and just no defence offered by Simon Gachet. Quite sensible if he hasn't got enough grip to generally keep it on the track on his own.
Better to take 3rd place than get into a battle which could end up you finishing off the podium or not even finishing at all. So sensible driving from Simon Gachet. You never want to give up a position, but sometimes it's better to concede but guarantee a podium than it is to end up in the gravel.
Exactly so. Lucas Stoltz still remains in 4th position, so for him that'll be dreadful. A run that doesn't lead to a podium, with a 3rd, a 2nd and a 1st so far in the championship. But points saved today, you'd say, for the Black Falcon team. Charles Weerts, his father Yves in the pits, trying to stay cool and calm. His boy, and he is a boy, he's 18 years old, leading the race, 2 and a bit seconds clear of the best of the rest. That's 3.4 seconds clear now after that sort out for 2nd place, looking very strong.
Yeah, 3.5 seconds and 8 minutes of the race remaining. It isn't going to be, unless again unexpected occurs, you never can tell. But Andrea Caldarelli will run down as quickly as he possibly can, but I think he's going to run out of this race with 8 minutes remaining.
Just going to tell you who's leading the Pro-Am class. It's Rinat Salikov in the 333 Ferrari from Rinaldi Racing. David Perel started it. He's taken it over. Could have been Jim Pla. He was going to hand over to Mauro Ricci. He had the drive-through penalty. He was way clear, but now the big difference after the drive-through is Rinaldi leading the class in Pro-Am. Charles Weerts, WEE on the windscreen, 001 alternates with that, but it's the number 2 Audi, his Audi, that's leading the race for the family team. 3.4 seconds now clear of Andrea Caldarelli. Caldarelli in the background of the shot, and already you can see how far behind Simon Gachet has dropped. In fact, he's starting to come under a little bit of pressure from Lucas Stoltz, 2.7 seconds back.
Well, Caldarelli has taken virtually 4/10 of a second out of the advantage. That was at 3.4 seconds, so the gap down to probably around about 3 seconds with just over 7 minutes remaining.
Yeah, I think Charles Weerts should be able to weather this storm. I think he's got enough in hand. They're both almost in the same frame of shot. Just in the background, you can see the black, orange and green flash of the best of the FFF Racing Team Lamborghinis. Andrea Caldarelli will give it his maximum. There he is, closing in. Last time 3.4 seconds, waiting for the clock to tell us what the gap has come down to. Just waiting any second now. Is it 2 point? Well, let's not guess. 3.2. That is good news indeed. Yes, the gap's coming down, but for Weerts Senior, the laps are coming down as well.
And Vincent Foster standing in front of Weerts Senior. You can sense there's a lot of tension. Dries van Voor, 6 minutes 40 seconds to go. It could be 6 hours and 40 minutes to go. The expression of the tension. But Charles Weerts showing great maturity and using the racetrack productively, not overdriving the car coming out of turn 5, getting it perfectly positioned to get a straight line through turn 6 as is possible.
And I'll tell you why that's incredibly wise, particularly at turns like turn 6. So many drivers have gone off and they've ripped bits out of the ground, and the rubber strips are up. There's lots of debris out there to pick up a puncture when you've produced such an excellent performance. First Dries van Voor and now Charles Weerts. Would be a shame, but the body angle of the 563 Lamborghini, is it still pressing?
Oh, it is, Prep. Just the speed that Caldarelli carried up into turn 9 visually was quicker than that of the lead Audi, but the problem is he's a 3.2 second deficit and just under 6 minutes remaining, and the mathematics, you might catch, but you're never going to overtake.
Yeah, the other interval I'm looking at is the gap between Simon Gachet and Lucas Stoltz. It's not really coming down, so it doesn't look as though a 4th podium for 4 races for Mauro Engel and Lucas Stoltz, but they'll still have that championship lead. They've been building points with every round. The battle for Silver Cup honours, it's still Rick Breukers ahead of Nico Bastian. He's really sucked up the pressure, but Bastian is far from finished in the 89 Mercedes.
Well, that's been a lot of pressure from Nico Bastian all the way through. Rick Breukers has done well to maintain his position. The Mercedes has been almost in the back window of the Audi at times as they come through turn 15. And once again, Nico Bastian thinks about it. What can I do? I can do nothing in turn 16. Never a place really to realistically overtake. Now the run down to turn 1, it's not a particularly long run down. sticks the nose of the Mercedes out in the air, gets a fresh gulp of air into the radiator, into the cooling ducts for the brakes, and then follows behind as they go through turn 1 and 2. The Mercedes clearly is quicker. This Audi, as we've seen with the third place now, Simon Gasly struggling, so almost getting to the point of the Mercedes having no track. Now we get something inside. This time I think, has he got it? Yes. Contact, and it's the Audi that almost loses, and it's going to lose another position. Finlay Hutchinson's going to probably get through as well.
Certainly looks that way. Wow. Body language, cars going left, cars going right. And those in behind, Taylor Proto catching that pack as well. So the second of the FFF racing team, Lamborghini's getting into that mix, and it's furious for the final 4 and a bit minutes. Aston Martin in the middle of that grouping. Thank you very much. John Watson sprinting off down. He can't wait to speak to the drivers after the end of the race. And a lot of the drivers can't wait for the race to be over. If their car's going well, only a few have got breathing space. You can see that blue Audi has actually got position. Finlay Hutchinson in behind though, Nico Bastian. There he is in the lead. Finally made a crack in Rick Broiker's armour here. First and second, the gap was 3.2 seconds, went down to 2.8 seconds between Charles Wirtz in the lead and Andrea Caldarelli. What's it now? 2.6 seconds, 2.594 seconds for Pedant. Simon Gachet third, Lucas Stoltz fourth, Finlay Hutchinson's fifth, and then this battle up into sixth place now, leading the Silver Cup class. The 89 Mercedes Schumacher ASP, Nico Bastian. Aston Martin, Aerovegno in behind. Rick Broikers hasn't given up, but he did get muscled out, and I think it was Taylor Proto just ran over the curbing and beyond out of the final corner. He'd have lost momentum, but he's back on the track. The black and green Audi is in behind in 11th place overall. That's Tom Campbell trying to make progress, but the clock, look, only just over 3 minutes in it, and that is first. Turning into turn 8, that's Charles Wirtz. There is Andrea Caldarelli, hasn't given up, but doesn't look as though he's finding the chunks of time. And you can be fairly sure, even though this is the first full season of GT racing, that even if, another twitch there from the race leader, even if Andrea Caldarelli got right on the tail of Charles Wirtz, he seems to be a very, very quick learner. And then he'd show us if he could defend as well as an attack. But he showed great running form yesterday. Okay, he spun out of second place when he was just 2 seconds down on the race leader, down at turn 13, but today he's leading the race and he's only got to go through turn 13 a couple more times at full racing speed. Great run. It hasn't been a great season so far. The results for Charles Wirtz have been a 12th, a 6th and a retirement. It's all going to change today. So Silver Cup being led in 6th place by Nico Bastian. Pro-Am honours being led by 7 seconds, Rinat Salikov, and Am honours, Florian Scholzer, making it look as though it's going to be 2 wins in 2 days for HB Racing with their Ferrari. Charles Wirtz, the gap 2.0, yes, it's come down by a fair chunk on that lap, 0.6 of a second, but look, the clock has only got 2 more minutes to spare, and that's going down by the second. Andrea Caldarelli certainly hasn't given up. You can see the car, the Lamborghini running over the curbing. There is the race leader's father. It's nervous. Long seconds if your team's leading, but particularly if your son is in the driving seat of the race leading car. Caldarelli is coming and coming and coming. Round turn 8 they go, working hard in the cockpit but trying to stay smooth as he possibly can. Only got to make the tyres last for a couple more laps, but when you know the grip is way down on where it was at the start of the race. Caldarelli looking for his turning point, turning across, almost muscle memory for him, and better speed out of turn 9 into 10, up the back straight they go. The lead, it looks like it's just under 2 seconds now, but the clock looks just over 1 minute, so it's this lap and then one more to the end of the race, so 1.5 laps to go for the race leader, and all those in behind. Simon Gachet in third place has fallen nearly 4 seconds behind off the tail of this battle. Lucas Stoltz just under 2 seconds behind him, so it doesn't look as though Stoltz will make it 4 podiums, finishes from 4 race starts in this, the Blancpain GT World Challenge Europe. It looks though Blancpain will have a new winning combination for this year in the form of Charles Wirtz. All the gaps come down. It looks like 1.5 seconds or so on to the final lap they go, with 35 seconds still on the clock, waiting for official gap as they start the final lap. 2.1 seconds, that is enough for Charles Wirtz. There doesn't seem to be traffic up ahead of him. He surely must be able to hold it out around this final lap. Simon Gachet in third place, Lucas Stoltz just behind in fourth, but it's Audi from Lamborghini at the front end of the race, then Audi from Mercedes for third and fourth positions. Still drivers further down the field in the quest to make up ground, kicking up the dirt out of turn 16, running a little bit wide there out of turn 6. seems to be under control. That's just where I say that Charles Weerts should not go. His teammate Dries van Tor doesn't really want to look at the screens, but you cannot draw your eyes away. Round turn 8 for the final time at racing speed, up to turn 9 and 10. Now finally the corners of Yves Weerts' mouth starting to point, not down, not level, they're starting to point up at the corners. Onto the back straight for the final time. Marginal gains for the chasing Lamborghini. The first 4 cars all in shot, with the 4th place Black Falcon Mercedes in the background. Time to get that celebratory message on your phone, but really savour the moment. Weerts seniors, look at the screen. Here's your boy, Charles Weerts, 18 years old, going around the final few corners of the final lap. There are 16 turns. That's turn 15 being negotiated. Out over the curbing, 1 more corner to negotiate. Turn 16, and a new winner, 18 years old, taking victory in the second race at MISANO. Charles Weerts, overjoyed, and imagine that. Look at the atmosphere in the garage at Team WRT. Dries van Tor jumping up and down. A win for him. It's not his first at this level, but certainly huge celebrations at WRT. Great chase by Andrea Caldarelli. Came home eventually 2.8 seconds down in second place overall. He took the win yesterday, so a giant haul of points for Caldarelli and Mapelli. Simon Gachet finishing in 3rd place. 4th place Lucas Stoltz. Here comes Finlay Hutchinson. Great result for the young Scottish driver in 5th place overall. Nico Bastian winning the Silver Cup class in 6th, coming home just ahead of Aero Vanio, who was 2nd in class. So history being made here. Youngest winner in Blancpain, 18 years old, 5.63 in behind Andrea Caldarelli, a 1st and a 2nd. So what a haul of points, and winning in the Pro-Am class. There it is, the green Ferrari. Rinat Salikov winning just ahead of Mirko Borta. It's Christian Engelhardt who's recovering after the drive-through penalty, but handshakes and cheers, probably some tears too, one would say, down at WRT. And the championship given quite a shake there, and certainly what you see in all that, they missed the podium, but yet another large haul of points for the championship leaders. Lucas Stoltz in 4th place and Maro Engel. They're relentless this season. They started way down the order, kept themselves out of trouble, and gradually worked their way forward, and deserved the plaudits for taking the honours in terms of keeping their championship lead alive. And that's exactly what you have to do. Pro-Am honours, just pointed out, it was Rinat Salikov winning that. Silver Cup honours, of course, that went to Nico Bastian, who at least put some smile on the face of the ACA ASP team, who had that mishap in the pits. And for the reference, Vincent Abril only came up to 15th place at the end of the race after that extra long pit stop, when the team was caught out, not expecting the car to come in. And suddenly, there was the car, making them panic. Well, not panic, just try and find the tyres to bring out and put on the car. And the AM class honours for the second race running went to the HB Racing Ferrari. Florian Scholz winning that from newcomer Dennis Remignaco, and Claude-Yves Gosselin bringing up the rear in the class. So plenty happening out on circuit from start through to finish. Incident, mishap, punctures, but no faults at all. For the number 2 Belgian Audi Club Team WRT crew, Dries van Tor led it away from the front row of the grid. All challenge resisted by his young teammate. Well, he's young himself. 21 and 18 is the age of both of those drivers. Dries van Tor, pat the bonnet.
Yes, man! Fuck yeah!
Plenty of applause and screaming and shouting, perhaps a rude word issued out there. So apologies for that. I think we might have heard something we didn't want to hear, but Charles Weerts delighted in the cockpit, and Dries van Tor, big hug for his Belgian compatriot, the Belgian team. Huge happiness for Charles Weerts there. And I think you can safely say the celebrations have begun for Team WRT back in winner's circle. Teenage exuberance in the car, and I think the magnitude of the achievement will sink in, and the disappointment of crashing out of second place, spinning out of second place yesterday, will now be behind Charles Weerts. He's laid down a marker. We saw flashes of that speed on his GT debut last year in Bahrain at the end of the season. Father and son moment. But we're down there with Dries van Tor and Charles Weerts.
Dries, fantastic, great victory. Could have been won yesterday as well.
I don't know. Well, yesterday was, of course, unfortunate. My knee, he made a rookie mistake. I've also made them in my few years ago. But you know, he came back strong. That's the goal of making a mistake, and you have to learn out of your mistakes and come back. And that's what he did. He drove well, and well, he kept the line behind. He was coming quickly. They've been strong the weekend, but we've kept him behind for this race. So let's go to the next one.
Excellent. Charles, we're trying to get hold of Charles first. Come here. Tell us about your drive, Charles. That was fantastic.
Well, it was not easy, especially in this warm. At the end, yeah, the 563 was really pushing to catch us. But yeah, I think a lot of work has been done in the pit with these guys who just did an amazing job putting us in front of the 88. I don't know what happened to the 88, but at the end we won the race, and yeah, I'm so happy for my.
And what was it like having the Lamborghini pressing you in those final laps?
Yeah, it was not easy, but I just tried to make the best I could, and it looked like it paid off, so really pleased.
Maybe a boy's become a man today.
Victory is for Jules, the son of Vincent. So the victory is for Jules. Thank you very much.
Good man, well done.
Oh, nice note there from Dries van Toor. So will that be the first of many, or the first? Who knows? We will see. But certainly laid down the marker, and I think it was very good there of Charles to mention that he didn't understand what happened to the 88 ACA Mercedes crew. We saw it. It was a pit stop problem. But let's go to the second place crew, down the 563 Lamborghini crew with John.
Marco, tell us about your afternoon.
Hot. I was struggling behind the Mercedes to overtake. They have much more torque than us, but we are quicker in the corner, so here it's quite difficult to overtake. So I just had to manage, and the safety car helped us a little bit because the guys in front were getting a little bit of gap. And then the team did a great pit stop, and Andrea did most of the job like yesterday, so we're happy.
Well done. Andrea, super drive from you, but was that a race that you ought to have won? The team maybe let you down?
A bit hot, I have to say. Wait. Yeah, no, I mean, the podium, as I told you before the start, was really the target. I think that we did a mega pit stop or something like that, and after that the car was actually quite good towards to the end, and I think it was perfect. Just score points, podium again. Cannot ask for more for the team.
Just run out of time.
Yeah, another 10 minutes maybe.
Good job, well done guys.
Drivers, huh? They want it all, don't they? But I think huge satisfaction for the FFF racing team, most notably for their 563 team. Yesterday, Marco Mappelli and Andrea Caldarelli took victory. Today, second place, and that's really moved them actually very close indeed to the top of the championship table. Certainly, Luca. Let's move. John's moving quickly. Let's go to the third place combination, the Santalot Racing Audi crew.
Christopher Hasse, you're looking very cool. Simon's blowing.
Yeah, well, it's a hot day today, but really cool day for us. We just finished again on the podium with the Santalot Audi R8 NS. Simon did a really good job at the end in these hot conditions. The tire drop is there, so you have to handle this good, but I think we can be very happy.
Good job. Simon, when the Lamborghini came behind you, you did the right thing. You let it go because otherwise it could have been disaster.
Yeah, yesterday it was a disaster for me after the crash with the Grasser racing team. But today we're on the podium. Santalot did an amazing job during this beginning of this year. So I'm really happy to come back on the podium at Misano.
Sure, we'll see more of you soon. Many thanks.
Thank you guys.
Very cool crew there, and exactly the right thing. John was quite right. The tyre handling, the tyre behaviour had gone away completely, and so rather than fight it and end up off the circuit. But let's take a look at the results. Victory there's the proof. The number 2 Audi winning by just under 3 seconds. Charles Weerts bringing home after Dries van Toor did the hard work in the early part of the race. Andrea Caldarelli, Marco Mappelli, first yesterday, second today, huge haul of points. Simon Gachet, Christopher Haase, we just heard from them, third, just holding off Lucas Stoltz, who finished having taken over from Mauro Engel, but more useful points for the championship's leaders. They're still there, but it's really closing in. Finley Hutchinson will be delighted with that 5th place. The Scottish driver really picking it up the order. Finished 1 position ahead of the top car in the Silver Cup class, driven home by Nico Bastian. The lead car in the Pro-Am class, top of the table there, number 16th position overall, 48 seconds down, but Rinat Salikov bringing that home to take victory. 1 position ahead of Hiroshi Hamaguchi, who was second in the class. Am Honours went to the car in 23rd position overall, Florian Scholzer. Let's take a look at the start of the race. It seems a long time ago. Raffaele Marciello starting from pole, Dries van Toor alongside, looking down low at the tail of the number 90 car, driven at that stage of the race, Fabian Schiller. Very, very tidy at the start. Good places gained by Jim Pla, who's leading the Pro-Am class. And in behind there's Fabian Schiller getting a bit of a squeeze on. In the early stages of the race, Marcus Winkelhock making progress, but sadly, Jim Pla was trying to make progress too, went up the inside. He spun Winkelhock around. Winkelhock didn't get to finish the race, and Jim Pla, his car, picked up the drive-through penalty accordingly. It got very tight, and these are the two Attempto Audis having a go at each other, and it wasn't the last time they were to come together. Maro Engel trying to keep out of the way, but stay in the battle. He had to try and pick his way forward. He was the championship leader, still is, but all the time he couldn't get past the cars ahead. Other rivals were pulling ever further clear. And Attempto Racing eventually attempted too hard, because that's Kelvin van Linde firing his teammate Nico Foster through the gravel at turn 16. A slow pit stop for the 63 Lamborghini, and it wasn't the worst one, because look, the door's being slammed. Raffaele Marciello had been leading the race. The team didn't know he was coming in. There was a radio problem. They weren't ready for him, so all his work came to nothing. Many cars riding out over the curbing, and perhaps that's the result of one of them. And that's Timo Boguslawski losing his carcass from the front right corner of the car. And then Simon Gachet had handed over, and the Santalok Racing car was not shoved out the way, moved out the way to let Caldarelli come through to second place. But Charles Weerts had the job done and came through to a famous win. An 18-year-old at the top of the table. Delight down at WRT. Dries van Tor started it. He's hugging everyone he can find on the right-hand side of that shot. So the pit crews get their honours. They work hard for their guys. Mechanics, this is the pit stop challenge. See, it's important to them too. They like their drivers winning. They might even get a bonus, but they get their own bonus if they're the quickest at the pit stop challenge. And it wasn't going to be an ACA ASP crew today, I'm afraid. They had problems in the pits. Great to hear that level of applause, because the rival crews know that maybe them next time, but it's not the first time we've seen a WRT crew on the top step of the podium. They are quickest to get the champagne uncorked. So their moment in the sun, in fact everyone's had their moment in the sun this weekend. It's been very hot here at Misano. And certainly keeping life in the tires, life in the mechanics as well. It's hugely hot for them working down in the pit lane, and now finally they can unwind, show off their work. Teamwork. Who needs friends, eh? So let's take a look at the point difference. 46.5 to just 40.5. Moppelli and Caldarelli are really on a charge. Stoltz and Maro Engel, it's sustained excellence for them at the front of the field. Nico Bastian, Thomas Neubauer not in the thick end of the points today, but just keep on scoring. That's what you have to do. Christian Engelhardt and Mirko Bortolotti only down in 8th place at the moment, and that's not where you expect to find them on recent form. But what you can say, just keep on scoring. But who is going to stop the runaway train that seems to be gathering momentum with each round? The FFF Racing Team crew of Marco Moppelli, Andrea Caldarelli up into 2nd place overall, but right now it's still advantage Engel and Stoltz at the top of the table. Waiting now for the next podium ceremony. Waiting for the top 3 crews to come out, and I think it's going to be an extra cheer for a new face atop the podium. Let's wait and see. So applause for the 3rd place crew, Santalok Racing. They started 3rd on the grid. Christopher Haas kicked off. Simon Gachet brought it through to the finish, showing that intelligence to stay out of the way when his tyres were gone. Had to cede 2nd place. 2nd place was taken by the crew next out. Yeah, victors yesterday, Marco Moppelli and Andrea Caldarelli. There's Andrea following out. And a new face to the top step of the podium, started outside of the front row by Dries van Tor. Charles Weerts brought it through to the finish. Wait for the applause. Out they come onto the podium any moment now, just savouring the moment, waiting to be called. The all-Belgian pairing. First Dries van Tor, 2nd Charles Weerts. So great satisfaction from the all-Belgian crew, for the all-Belgian team atop the podium. The trophies coming out for Sansalot Racing for third place. That's for Christopher Haase and Simon Gachet. Second place trophies to add to their winning trophies from last night. Came up from 6th on the grid. Marco Mappelli started, Andrea Caldarelli led the chase to the finish, but just couldn't quite catch and pass the number 2 Audi, started by Dries van Tor and finished in some considerable style by his young teammate, Charles Weerts. It's a pairing that appears to work. Maybe it'll be tried again in the future. Stefan Rattel out to present the checks and a new set of hands. That is goodbye from us here at MISANO. 2 very hot days, huge amount of fabulous racing. Enjoyed it enormously. Can't wait for the next one. We will be at Zandvoort. So the top six drivers, the top 3 cars, victory, champagne, trophies, delight, and finally now they can get out of those race suits. It's been a very hot few days of racing here. Very, very hot testing on Friday, and luckily the breeze has come in to cool them down. But it matters not if you're on the top, if you're up on the podium. Any podium finish in a Blancpain GT World Challenge round is well deserved. Hard work, hugely competitive racing. We've got more podiums to follow, because of course we've got the Silver Cup, we have Pro-Am and we have Am, so waiting to get on with those. The podium is replenished, perhaps mopped down a little bit after all the champagne spray. Drivers remember to take those all-important checks with them back down to their team area, and the winning trophy has been remembered to be collected. There is our new winner, Charles Weerts. Followed out by the driver who led their attack from the front row. Of course, we have to realise the ASP Mercedes was leading up to the pit stops, the number 88 car, and then they weren't ready, and it came away with next to nothing. So the Silver Cup podium, number 10 coming out, Oscar Tunjo and Rick Breukers. Second place to Hugo de Sadalier in number 62, with the Aston Martin shared with Arovegno, but heading to the top step, the 89 crew. Here they are, smiles around. Nico Bastian and Thomas Neubauer up onto the top step for ASP. So now the trophies coming out to be presented to the top 3 crews in the Silver Cup class. And they all finished in the top 10. The crew in third place in class finished 9th overall. That's the number 10 crew for Team WRT. Good day for the Belgian team, Rick Breukers and Oscar Tunjo. In 7th place overall, the 62 Aston Martin crew, Arovegno closer to us, and Hugo de Sadalier, and up on the top step. In the white overalls, Nico Bastian. In the black overalls, French ace Thomas Neubauer, very much a rising star. The trophies, the checks, the champagne bottles there, and Stefan Rattel very wisely getting out of the way, and an extra reward as being the Silver Cup winners. And for everyone, all the photographers working down there, the camera crews, it really, really is a hot work today. It's been super hot. Thank goodness we weren't in Spain or southern France, where the heat just hit this massive high. It's been hot enough to keep us entertained and keep the drivers working out how to keep life in their tyres. They will have all learnt considerable amounts through the course of this weekend. Next stop, Zandvoort for the GT World Challenge. But that's GT World Challenge Europe. There's also Blancpain GT World Challenge Asia. I will be in Fuji Speedway next weekend, and meanwhile also racing in the American Series as well. So let's look at the points. It's a very tidy advantage there for today's class winners. Nico Bastian, Thomas Neubauer, 6th overall. What a great run for them. Milan Donci, Matteo Drudy showed good form, but Fabian Schiller, Timo Bogoslawski, it all went wrong for them. We saw Timo limping home with the puncture. They'd already had other problems in the race earlier on. But Hugo de Sadlier and Aerovenia starting to find form. They were second in the Silver Cup class today, and that's moved them up the order. And it's going to keep on shaking itself around. But Nico Bastian and Thomas Neubauer seem to be in a very, very rich vein of form. With 16.5 points for a win to have already an advantage of the size of theirs, that is very handy indeed. Now we're looking at the AM class finishers. Car number 24, that crew's been up there before on the podium. Niels Stevenart, the taller figure, and Stefan Ortelli, third in the Pro-Am class. Second place in Pro-Am, 519. One of the cars, it's the 3 cars from Orange. 1 FFF Racing Team, Hiroshi Hamaguchi and Phil Keane. And they've got the dark green overalls at the back sleeves. It's the 333 Rinaldi Racing Crew. Rinat Salikov and David Pirelli will be coming out to take the top step of the podium for Rinaldi Racing. So as the trophies come out, it's worth reflecting in the Pro-Am class. It was Ferrari winning from Lamborghini from Audi, so plenty of variety of manufacturers involved at all levels of the Blancpain GT World Challenge. Phil Keane takes the second place trophy, one there for Hiroshi Hamaguchi as well, long-time racer for the FFF Racing Team. Trophy also for the winning team, Rinaldi Racing. The checks come out. SRO founder Stefan Rattel, and we've got the whole show on the road, and what a show it is now. And trophies for the winning team. They're holding high David Pirelli and Rinat Salikov. He's been racing this championship for a long time and accruing many, many good results in the Pro-Am category. That's another one in the bag for him. So that's the end of the celebrations here at MISANO, the second round of the Blancpain World Challenge. Make sure you join us in a few weeks' time for round number 3 at Zandvoort.